In the shadows of every city, behind every closed door, there are stories too disturbing to be forgotten. Stories of deception, betrayal, murder. Tonight, on Stories of Crime, we uncover another chilling case that shocked the world and left investigators searching for answers. So dim the lights, put on your headphones and prepare yourself for a journey into the darkest corners of the human mind. This is Stories of Crime.
This chapter marks a turning point, a deepening of the narrative, preparing us for the complex challenges and moral dilemmas that lie ahead for Oswald Langdon. The stage is now set for a compelling exploration of ambition, integrity, and the enduring human spirit in the face of relentless opposition. We've introduced the fire. Now we wait to see how Oswald will forge himself in its heat. Join us next time as we discover how Oswald navigates the treacherous waters of this newfound rivalry. Until then, ponder the weight of an unresolved challenge, and consider how you might face a rival who believes himself to be utterly untouchable. The story of Oswald Langdon continues. Chapter 7: Whispers of Treason. Welcome, dear listeners, to a pivotal moment in our journey with Oswald Langdon. As we embark upon Chapter 7, titled Whispers of Treason, we find ourselves on the cusp of a profound shift in the narrative, a turning point where the very foundations of Oswald's world will be shaken. This chapter delves deep into the core concept that the stakes are no longer merely personal. They have escalated dramatically as political intrigue and false accusations threaten to irrevocably entangle Oswald. Up until now, our protagonist has grappled with challenges certainly, but they have largely been contained within the bounds of personal endeavor, local disputes, or perhaps the navigation of societal expectations. Here, however, the very air thickens with a different kind of tension. Oswald is about to be drawn into a labyrinthine web of power plays, where truth is a malleable concept and loyalty is a fleeting commodity. This isn't just about a misunderstanding or a simple conflict of interest. It's about a calculated campaign to discredit, to dismantle, and perhaps even to destroy. How does one defend against shadows? How does one fight an enemy whose weapon is the very air you breathe, suspicion and rumor? This chapter thrusts Oswald into the harsh glare of public scrutiny, where his intentions, however noble, will be twisted and his actions misinterpreted by forces far more influential and ruthless than he has ever encountered. It's a classic narrative arc where a character, often unprepared, is forced to confront the systemic corruption that lurks beneath the veneer of order, reminding us that sometimes the greatest threats aren't obvious monsters, but rather the silent, insidious machinations of those in power. Oswald's purity of purpose, his innate sense of justice, might ironically make him an easier target for those who thrive in the murky waters of deceit. He is, in essence, about to discover the true cost of principle in a world governed by pragmatism and self-interest. The question now becomes, how will he navigate this treacherous landscape without losing himself entirely? To fully immerse you in this escalating drama, we'll be making some deliberate narrative choices. First, we will significantly increase the pace of the storytelling to match the urgency of the unfolding plot. Think of it as the tempo of a symphony building towards its tumultuous crescendo. Why is this important? Because as the stakes rise, as events unfold with a dizzying speed, the narrative must mirror that acceleration. Consider, for a moment, a high-octane action film, perhaps a classic spy thriller where the protagonist is racing against time to prevent a global catastrophe. In such a scenario, the scenes are often shorter, the dialogue snappier, the descriptions more direct and less ornate. There's a rapid-fire exchange of information, quick cuts between different perspectives, and a palpable sense of breathless haste. The director doesn't linger on beautiful landscape shots when a bomb is about to explode. Instead, the focus is entirely on the immediate crisis, on the frantic efforts to avert disaster. That heightened energy, that relentless drive forward, is precisely what we'd aim to convey in this chapter. From a psychological perspective, increasing the pace is a powerful tool for maintaining intense listener engagement and creating a physiological response that mirrors the character's urgency. When the narrative moves quickly, our minds naturally work harder to keep up, processing information at a faster rate. This heightened cognitive activity can elevate our heart rate, quicken our breathing, and even stimulate a mild stress response, making us feel genuinely more invested and anxious alongside Oswald. It prevents our minds from wandering, forcing our full attention on the unfolding events. Our brains, wired for survival, are naturally attuned to rapid changes and perceive them as potential threats or crucial developments, thus compelling us to pay closer attention. This immediate, almost visceral connection ensures that you, the listener, are not merely observing the story, but are actively participating in the tension, leaning in, anticipating the next beat, feeling the pressure mount. It's a masterful manipulation of narrative rhythm to achieve profound emotional impact, ensuring that the urgency of the page translates directly into urgency in your mind. So, how can you, as a listener, practically apply this understanding to enhance your experience? Be prepared for a narrative that feels more dynamic, almost relentless. You might notice shorter sentences, more direct decorations, and fewer lingering descriptions. The conversations might feel more abrupt, more to the point, reflecting the lack of time and the gravity of the situation. Instead of a leisurely stroll, imagine yourself on a fast-moving train, the scenery blurring past, the destination unknown but clearly approaching with alarming speed. Don't resist this acceleration, rather, embrace it. Allow the quickened rhythm to sweep you up, to draw you deeper into Oswald's predicament. Pay close attention to the rapid succession of events, the quick shifts in alliances or revelations. This isn't a time for leisurely reflection. It's a chapter designed to keep you on the edge of your seat, your heart pounding in sync with the escalating drama. Let the pace guide your emotional response, allowing the story's momentum to become your own. Secondly, you will notice a distinct shift in vocal delivery for scenes involving eavesdropping, specifically the use of hushed tones. Imagine a conspiratorial whisper, a secreture between intimates, or perhaps, as the chapter title suggests, a whisperer of treason. This isn't simply about lowering the volume. It's about changing the very quality of the voice, making it feel closer, more intimate, almost as if the speaker is directly beside you, imparting forbidden knowledge. Think of those iconic moments in cinematic history, perhaps a pivotal scene from The Godfather, where crucial, often illicit, plans are discussed in low, murmuring voices, barely audible above the ambient sounds of the room, or picture a spy hiding in the shadows, straining to hear a clandestine conversation that could unravel an entire plot. The characters themselves are attempting to remain unnoticed, their voices barely carrying, creating an atmosphere of secrecy and danger. In such moments, the audience is implicitly invited to lean in, to strain their own ears, becoming a silent, privileged observer to something they perhaps shouldn't be hearing. It's an invitation to become complicit in the act of eavesdropping, blurring the line between passive listener and active participant in the unfolding secret. Psychologically, the use of hushed tones is incredibly potent. It creates an immediate sense of intimacy and exclusivity, as if the narrator is confiding directly in you, sharing a secret that is not meant for general consumption. This draws you in, creating a powerful emotional connection and a heightened sense of curiosity. Our natural instinct is to pay closer attention when someone speaks softly, to strain our ears to catch every word, fearing we might miss something later. This vulnerability in delivery makes us feel more connected to the secret being revealed. It also triggers a subtle feeling of anxiety or even danger, as hushed conversations often signify something forbidden, something risky, something that could have severe consequences if discovered. It taps into our primal desire for knowledge, especially forbidden knowledge, making the information shared feel more weighty, more impactful, and more valuable. We become active participants in the secrecy, our own breath perhaps held, our own movements stilled, as if we too could be discovered. It's a powerful way to make the listener feel deeply integrated into the covert narrative, making the experience intensely personal and thrillingly clandestine. So, how can you best engage with this narrative choice? When you perceive this shift in vocal quality, understand that you are being granted a unique access point into the hidden machinations of this story. This is your cue to lean in, metaphorically and perhaps literally. You might find yourself naturally adjusting your own listening environment, perhaps turning down external distractions to fully absorb the subtle nuances. This isn't just dialogue. It's a window into the unspoken, the unsaid, the deeply secretive. Pay attention not only to the words being whispered, but also to the implication of why they must be whispered. What does this reveal about the characters involved? What dangers do they perceive? What clandestine plans are being hatched that Oswald is perhaps unaware of, or only just discovering? Allow yourself to feel that frisson of forbidden knowledge, that innate thrill of being privy to a secret that could change everything. It's an invitation to step closer to the very heart of the intrigue. Finally, and perhaps most crucially for this chapter, our aim is to leave you, the listener, profoundly anxious for Oswald's safety. This isn't just about physical peril, although that may certainly be present. It's about the very real threat to his reputation, his freedom, his future, and everything he holds dear. We want you to genuinely worry for him, to feel the weight of the injustice and the precariousness of his position. Think about any narrative where the protagonist is unjustly accused, perhaps framed for a crime they didn't commit, or caught in a political snare beyond their understanding. Consider a character like Andy Dufresne's name in the Shawshank Redemption, wrongly in prison, his freedom and good name stolen from him. Or perhaps a character navigating the treacherous political waters of House of Cards, where every move is scrutinized, every word twisted, and every alliance can crumble in an instant. This anxiety arises not just from the tangible threats, but from the immense feeling of helplessness, the overwhelming power of the system against an individual, and the potential destruction of a life built on integrity. The narrative doesn't just state Oswald is in danger. It paints a vivid picture of the tightening noose, the closing doors, the whispers that slowly coalesce into damning accusations. It highlights his isolation, the feeling of being outnumbered and outmaneuvered, leaving you to wonder how he could possibly extricate himself from such a perilous point. From a psychological standpoint, our anxiety for the fictional character stems from a deeply empathetic connection that narratives skillfully cultivate. We identify with Oswald. We've invested in his journey, his struggles, his triumphs. When he is threatened, particularly by unfair or malicious forces, our innate sense of justice is activated, and we feel a vicarious sense of alarm. Our brains are wired to create social bonds, and when we become emotionally invested in a character, their well-being becomes, in a small way, tied to our own emotional equilibrium. The narrative accomplishes this by humanizing Oswald, showing his vulnerability, his integrity, and the genuine threat to his core values. It taps into our fears of being misunderstood, of being falsely accused, of having our name tarnished by unseen enemies. This empathetic response creates a powerful emotional hook. ensuring that the listener is not just passively observing, but actively rooting for Oswald, feeling his fear, and desperately hoping for his deliverance. It's the storytelling equivalent of holding your breath, knowing that one wrong step could lead to irreversible consequences for someone you've come to care deeply about. To truly feel this anxiety for Oswald, pay close attention to the subtle cues embedded within the narration. Notice the increasing isolation he might feel, the way former allies may shy away, or how seemingly innocuous events from the past are now being reinterpreted through a sinister lens. Listen for any hints of betrayal, any suggestions of hidden agendas that are specifically designed to target him. Consider the potential ripple effect of these accusations. How might they impact his family, his livelihood, his very sense of self? Allow yourself to truly empathize with his plight, placing yourself in his shoes. What would it feel like to have your reputation systematically dismantled, your integrity questioned, your future placed in jeopardy by forces you barely comprehend? This emotional engagement is precisely what the chapter aims to evoke, drawing you into Oswald's personal crisis and making this struggle your own. Let yourself feel the tension, the worry, the fierce desire for him to overcome these formidable new adversaries. As we move into Chapter 7, Whispers of Treason, understand that the calm waters we may have previously navigated are now giving way to a tumultuous storm. The tranquil journey has been replaced by a desperate fight for survival, not just of body, but of character and truth. We will accelerate the pace, draw you closer with hushed secrets, and leave you utterly consumed by Oswald's perilous situation. Prepare yourselves, dear listeners, for a chapter that will challenge your perceptions, quicken your pulse, and leave you eagerly awaiting Oswald's next move in this dangerous game of political intrigue. The stage is set, the players are in position, and the whispers are about to become a roar. Let us now delve into the unfolding drama. Chapter 8, The Gathering Storm. Welcome back, dear listener, to the unfolding saga of Oswald Langdon. As we embark upon Chapter 8, aptly titled The Gathering Storm, we find ourselves on the precipice of monumental change, a pivot point where the very earth thrums within a contention. Have you ever felt that electrifying stillness just before a lightning strike? That profound hush that descends upon the world, signaling an immense release of energies is imminent. That, my friends, is precisely the atmosphere enveloping our characters now. This chapter is not merely a recounting of events. It is a meticulous exploration of the intricate dance of preparation, a strategic ballet performed by both Oswald and his formidable adversaries, as they braced themselves for an inevitable, earth-shattering clash. Imagine, if you will, the chess pieces being moved into their final, critical positions on the blueprint, sprawling board. Each player, with a steely glint in their eyes, is calculating, anticipating, and reinforcing. Oswald, having navigated treacherous political currents and uncovered layers of deceit, now stands at a crossroads. His earlier journey was one of discovery and self-realization. Now, it is one of solidification and resolve. We see not just the physical marshalling of forces, the clandestine meetings, the meticulous mapping of territories, the securing of resources, the training of loyalists, but also the profound psychological and emotional burden. What does it mean to truly ready oneself for conflict of this magnitude? It means confronting fear head-on, forging courage from uncertainty, and accepting the heavy mantle of leadership. It's about more than just sharpening swords. It's about sharpening wills, hardening resolve, and instilling spirits. The very breath taken by our heroes carries the weight of future battles. Each quiet moment before the storm filled with a silent prayer of firm resolve. It's in these hushed preparations that characters often find their deepest strength, or discover their most hidden vulnerabilities. On the opposing side, Oswald's enemies, driven by their own dark agendas and desperate to maintain their crumbling power, are equally engaged in this grim theater of preparation. They are not merely reacting. They are also planning, consolidating their own malevolent influence, tightening their grip, and preparing their counter-moves. Perhaps they are unaware of the full extent of Oswald's resolve, or perhaps they underestimate his burgeoning strength. But one thing is certain, they are not idle. They are likely marshalling their own dark forces, weaving intricate traps, and bolstering their defenses, utterly convinced of their all-righteousness or their superior might. This reciprocal readiness creates a palpable tension, a pressure cooker environment where every decision, every whispered word, every silent glance carries immense weight. The narrative shifts from subtle intrigue to overt strategic positioning, painting the vivid picture of a world holding its breath, poised on the brink of an upheaval that will redefine its very foundations. Are you ready to witness this delicate, dangerous equilibrium before it shatters? Now, let us delve into the very fabric of our storytelling for this chapter, the narrative voice itself. For the gathering storm, we consciously about a grim, yet profoundly determined narrative voice. Why is this crucial, you might ask? Because the stakes have never been higher, and the wave of the impending conflict demands a shift in our perspective, mirroring the gravity that now settles upon Oswald and his companions. This isn't merely a stylistic choice. It's a thematic imperative that imbues every word, every phrase, with a sense of urgency and solemnity. We move beyond the light brushstrokes of discovery and into the darker, more resolute use of impending battle. The voice isn't one of despair, mind you, but rather one of steely resolve, acknowledging the danger while firmly asserting the protagonist's readiness to confront it. It acknowledges the shadows but emphasizes the light of unwavering purpose. This narrative stance prepares the listener for the heightened drama and emotional intensity that will soon unfold, ensuring that the tone aligns perfectly with the momentous events transpiring. It's about setting the stage, not just with descriptions, but with the very sound and rhythm of the telling. Consider, as a potent real-world storytelling example, the masterful narrative leading up to the iconic Battle of Helm's Deep in J.R.R. Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings. The earlier chapters, while certainly containing peril, often carried a more adventurous, orchestral tone, a sense of journey and discovery. But as the forces of Isengard gathered, as the storm clouds of war truly began to brew and the sheer scale of the threat became clear, the narration itself became heavier, more portentous. Descriptions focused on the grim faces of the Rohan defenders, the solemnity of their preparations, the vastness and inhumanity of the approaching Europe-high hordes. The words chosen were stark, the pace deliberate, and the overall feeling was one of impending doom tempered only by a flicker of courageous defiance. It's not just what is said, but how it is said, isn't it? The shift in narrative voice reflects the deepening shadows and the hardening resolve of those facing them, a silent pact between storyteller and audience that the journey is about to become far more perilous. From a psychological perspective, adopting such a voice serves multiple critical functions for you, the listener. Firstly, it signals to your subconscious mind that the narrative has entered a more serious, more dangerous phase. This primes your emotional responses, preparing you for the intensity that lies ahead, preventing any disconnect between the storytelling and the high stakes of the plot. Secondly, it fosters a deeper sense of empathy and respect for the characters. When the narrator conveys the gravity of their situation with such an unwavering tone, you are drawn into their internal struggle, their fears, and their resolute will. It legitimizes their impending sacrifices and makes their triumphs, should they come, all the more earned and impactful. You become the fellow traveler, a silent witness to their momentous decisions, bound by the solemnities of the narrative. This controlled gravity helps to ground the fantastic elements of the story in relatable human emotions, making the brand conflict feel personal and deeply resonant. It allows for shared experience of the impending trials. For us, as the creators and narrators of this auditory experience, the practical application of this screen determined voice involves several nuanced adjustments. It means a subtle lowering of pitch, a more deliberate and measured pace, allowing each significant word to resonate fully, to hang in the air for just a moment longer. It entails injecting a quiet strength into the delivery, a sense of controlled power rather than frantic energy or breathless urgency. Pauses become more significant, serving as punctuation marks that allow the weight of a moment to truly settle, to allow the listener to absorb the profundity of the statement. We emphasize words like fate, resolve, sacrifice, and inevitable, not with melodrama, but with a profound and understated conviction. This isn't just speaking the lines. It's embodying the unwavering spirit of Oswald and his allies as they stand firm against the encroaching darkness. It's about letting the weight of the world they inhabit settle into your own vocal cords, conveying that the path ahead is fraught with peril, but it is a path they are determined to walk with unyielding purpose. Now, amidst this darkening landscape, where the shadows of impending conflicts stretch long and menacing, one crucial element emerges as a beacon of hope and strength: the unwavering loyalty of Oswald's allies. Do we not all crave such steadfast companionship in our own lives, particularly when facing our greatest challenges? This chapter goes to great lengths to illuminate the bonds of trust and mutual respect that Oswald has painstakingly forged. It's not enough to simply state that his allies are loyal. We must show you this profound connection, demonstrating how their dedication acts as a powerful counterpoint to the escalating danger. Their loyalty isn't a mere plot device. It is the very bedrock upon which Oswald's courage is often built, a testament to his own integrity and leadership. In the face of an inevitable clash, knowing who stands beside you, without question or hesitation, is a force more potent than any weapon or strategic advantage. This deep-seated allegiance provides both emotional sustenance and practical reinforcement, illustrating that even in the most dire circumstances, genuine human connection can be an extraordinary source of resilience. To illustrate this, consider the timeless bond between Frodo Baggins and Samwise Gamgee in The Lord of the Rings. Samwise's loyalty wasn't born of grand pronouncements, but of countless small, selfless acts, carrying Frodo's burden when he could no longer stand, offering words of encouragement when hope seemed utterly lost, sharing meager rations, and literally refusing to leave his side even when faced with insurmountable odds and terrifying foes. He wasn't just a companion. He was the emotional anchor, the embodiment of unwavering support that allowed Frodo to continue his arduous quest, often when he felt he could not. Or think of the diverse, yet united, crew of Captain Picard on the Starship Enterprise. Their individual strengths and unshakable belief in their captain, even when confronting existential threats that endangered the very fabric of the galaxy, made them an unstoppable force. These aren't just characters. They are the symbols of profound commitment and the transformative power of shared purpose. Their loyalty isn't blind. It's earned, tested, and ultimately absolute psychologically. Highlighting such loyalties is incredibly impactful for several reasons. For the listener, it provides a sense of reassurance and warmth amidst the grim narrative. We are inherently drawn to stories of true camaraderie and selfless dedication because they resonate with our own deeply held values of friendship, family, and community. It validates Oswald's character, showing that its leadership is not simply about power or manipulation, but about inspiring trust and earning devotion through his own actions and principles. Furthermore, seeing characters willingly stand by another, even at great personal risk, elevates the moral stakes of the story. It transforms the conflict from a solitary struggle into a collective endeavor, making the eventual outcome, whatever it may be, feel more significant and more widely felt, as if the fate of an entire community of loyal individuals hangs in a balance. It reminds us that even in the darkest hours, the human spirit, bolstered by genuine connection, can find extraordinary reserves of strength, allowing individuals to overcome obstacles far greater than themselves. In terms of practical education for the script and narration, this means focusing on the interactions between Oswald and his confidants. We might describe a quiet, reassuring note shared between two characters, conveying a depth of understanding and unspoken agreement that transcends words. We highlight dialogues where allies explicitly voice their commitment, not with grandstanding, but with earnest conviction and a quiet determination that speaks volumes. Perhaps we include moments where an ally makes a personal sacrifice or takes a calculated risk specifically to protect Oswald or advance their shared cause, actions that underscore their profound dedication. The narrator can emphasize the genuine emotion in these exchanges, allowing the warmth of their bond to subtly cut through the escalating tension, providing moments of profound human connection amidst the growing threat. It's about portraying these connections as living, breathing entities, integral to the very survival and success of our hero and his mission, ensuring that their loyalty is not just a backdrop. It is a vital, beating heart of this gathering storm. And finally, as our chapter draws to a close, we'll employ a classic yet incredibly potent narrative technique, ending with a dramatic pause, a deliberate moment of stillness that signifies a profound calm before the inevitable, devastating storm. Have you ever noticed how, in moments of great anticipation, silence can become the loudest sound in the world? It's a powerful tool, isn't it? After all the meticulous preparations, the strategic maneuverings, and the deep emotional resonance of loyalty, we leave you, the listener, suspended in a moment of profound quietude, allowing the full weight of what has transpired and what is yet to come to settle within your mind. This isn't just an arbitrary stopping point. It's a carefully crafted artistic choice designed to maximize impact and heighten anticipation, to ensure the listener is left with a sense of profound moments and an eager thirst for the next development. Think of those unforgettable scenes in cinematic history. The quiet, almost breathless moment before the first shot is fired in a classic Western standoff, where the dusty wind and the creaking of leather are the only sounds, or the absolute stillness in a spaceship's cockpit before the plunge into hyperspace, the vastness of the cosmos stretching silently before them. In literature, it might be the final, lingering sentence of a chapter that leaves you staring blankly at the page, your imagination already racing ahead, filling in the terrifying brunt of what's next. Consider the famed historical accounts of generals pausing, taking a long, deep breath, surveying the field with a practiced, solemn gaze, before uttering the command that would send thousands into battle, their lives forever changed. It's in these moments of profound quiet that the true gravity of impending action is felt most acutely, a final opportunity for internal reflection before the external world erupts into chaos. Psychologically, this dramatic pause is a masterstroke in suspense building. It doesn't just hold the narrative, it actively engages your mind in a process of anticipation and projection. By withholding immediate resolution or action, we create a cognitive tension, a yearning for the next beat, the next development. Your brain instinctively begins to fill the void, imagining the potential outcomes, replaying the preparations, and contemplating the stakes and consequences for the characters you've come to know and care for. This technique doesn't merely tell you that something significant is about to happen. It makes you feel it deeply, personally, drawing you further into the emotional landscape of the story. It allows the cumulative effect of the entire chapter, the grim determination, the unwavering loyalty, the strategic readiness to coalesce and resonate, creating a powerful emotional echo that lingers long after the narrator's voice fades. It's an invitation to lean in, to hold your breath, and to prepare your own spirit for the coming upheaval, knowing that the stillness is merely the precursor to an earth-shattering roar. Practically, as a script-enduring narration, this means crafting a final paragraph or sentence that encapsulates the immense weight of the moment, a line that leaves an indelible impression of impending change and profound consequence. The narrator's delivery of this final thought must be deliberate, perhaps even slightly hushed, imbued with the full solemnity of the situation, allowing the words to sink in. And then, the pause itself, not just a momentary breath, but a conscious, extended moment of silence, a space for contemplation and anticipation. This silence should feel significant, pregnant with unspoken possibilities and the thunderous echoes of what lies just beyond the horizon. It is a moment for reflection, for the emotional landscape to settle, allowing the listener to truly absorb the profound reality that the storm is not just gathering. It is now poised to break. As we conclude Chapter 8, The Gathering Storm, we've journeyed through the intricate preparations on both sides of the brewing conflict, witnessing how Oswald and his adversaries meticulously readied themselves for an inevitable clash. We've embraced a narrative voice that reflects the grim determination and immense stakes, allowing the gravity of the situation to resonate deeply within you. We've celebrated the unshakable loyalty of Oswald's allies, understanding that their steadfast support is a powerful foundation against the encroaching darkness. And we've left you with a poignant, dramatic pause, a moment of stillness that allows the full weight of the impending conflict to settle, sharpening your anticipation for what lies ahead. The pieces are set. The players are in position. The calm has truly descended. But remember, dear listener, even the deepest calm is merely the precursor to the greatest tempests. What trials await Oswald Langdon and his loyal companions when the storm finally breaks? What sacrifices will be demanded, and what courage will be unleashed as their world is plunged into chaos? Join us next time, in Chapter 9, as the first drops of rain begin to fall, and the true battle commences. Chapter 9, Midnight Escape. Welcome, dear listener, to a profound exploration of Chapter 9, Midnight Escape from the compelling narrative of Oswald Langdon. This chapter is a true tour de force, a pivotal moment designed to grab you by the collar and pull you directly into the heart of the action. It is a high-stakes action sequence where Oswald must flee to avoid unjust imprisonment, a desperate dash for freedom against the backdrop of looming injustice. Can you feel the tension already building? The clock ticking against our protagonist. This isn't just about physical movement. It's about the relentless pursuit of innocence, the crushing weight of false accusation, and the raw, primal instinct to survive. Oswald is not merely running from something. He is running for his very life, his reputation, and the slender hope of clearing his name. The stakes couldn't be higher. Imagine being accused of a crime you didn't commit, with the walls closing in, the law, misguided as it may be, hot on your heels. What would you do? How would your heart pound, your breath catch in your throat? This chapter aims to immerse you in that very visceral experience, making you a silent companion to Oswald's harrowing flight through the shadows. It's an exercise in empathy and adrenaline, a testament to the human spirit's resilience when faced with overwhelming odds. We are not just hearing a story. We are living it, breath by breath, step by desperate step. To truly convey this breathless urgency and profound desperation. We focus on several key performance elements for the narrator, each designed to elevate your listening experience. First, and perhaps most crucially for this chapter, is the directive to read with rapid pacing and breathy intensity. Think of a heart racing, blood pumping through veins, the sheer physical exertion of sprint through unknown territory. This is what we aim to evoke with our voice. Consider a real-world storytelling example. Picture a scene from a classic thriller film, perhaps one where the protagonist is being chased through a labyrinthine city street at night. The music swells, becoming faster, more purposive. The camera cuts rapidly between shots, never lingering, always moving forward. The characters' dialogue, if any, is clipped short, and often interspersed with gasps or heavy breathing. They aren't delivering eloquent monologues. They are surviving. The sound design is filled with the crunch of gravel underfoot, the distant wail of a siren, the character's own rapid breaths. All these elements combine to create an overwhelming sense of urgency, an inescapable feeling of being right there in the chase. From a psychological perspective, this rapid pacing and breathing intensity are absolutely vital. Why do they matter so much? Because they directly mirror the physiological responses to extreme stress and physical exertion. When we are scared or in danger, our hearts race, our breathing becomes shallow and quick, our minds accelerate. By replicating these vocal characteristics, the narrator doesn't just describe Oswald's state, they embody it. This creates a powerful phenomenon called emotional contagion, where the listener unconsciously begins to feel the same sense of panic, urgency, and adrenaline as Oswald himself. It backsees the purely intellectual understanding of the scene and taps directly into our primal sympathetic nervous system, making the experience deeply immersive and unforgettable. It pulls you onto the edge of your seat, making you lean in, desperate to know if Oswald will make it. It transforms mere narration into a living, breathing experience, a shared journey of desperation and hope. So, how does a narrator practically apply this? It involves several deliberate techniques. Firstly, conscious breath control is paramount. Rather than deep, full breaths, aim for shorter, quicker inhalations, followed by slightly longer, exhaled phrases that naturally carry more air, giving that breathy quality. Imagine you're actually running. Your body wouldn't allow for leisurely breathing. Secondly, articulate quickly, but always maintain clarity. The words should tumble up, but not become a garbled mess. Think of a machine gun rather than a blatant each word distinct, but delivered with rapid succession. Thirdly, use vocal texture. A slight, controlled vocal fry or a subtle crack can convey strength, fear, or the physical toll of exertion, but use it sparingly and strategically to avoid sounding like a constant struggle. Finally, don't be afraid to allow natural pauses to be shorter, almost non-existent, pushing the narrative relentlessly forward, mirroring Oswald's own desperate rush against time. Our second key performance point emphasizes verbs and action beats. These are the muscles and bones of an action sequence, the words that propel the story forward with undeniable force. Think of sports commentator calling a crucial play. He dribbled, drove to the basket left, and slammed it home. Each underlined word is a powerful verb, describing a distinct, impactful action. The commentator doesn't say, he moved the ball and went to the basket and put it in. No, they use dynamic verbs that paint a vivid picture and convey the energy and precision of the moment. Similarly, in a fight scene, instead of he hit the villain, we might hear, he lunged, his fist connecting with a sickening sound. This action beats lunged, connecting, thought are the heartbeats of the scene, each one a mini event in itself. Psychologically, emphasizing verbs and action beats is crucial because it makes the narrative more dynamic, immediate, and concrete. Verbs are the driving force of any sentence. They denote movement, change, and agency. By giving them vocal prominence, the narrator creates a sense of doing rather than merely describing. The listener isn't just told what happened. They are shown it through the power of language, translated into sound. Action beats. Those brief, impactful descriptions of specific movements or sounds serve as crucial anchors in the listener's mental imagery. They break up the flow of the narrative, providing little bursts of sensory information that make the scene feel more real, more present. It's the difference between hearing a summary of an event and actually experiencing it as it unfolds, moment by vivid moment. This technique demands the listener's attention, compelling them to visualize each distinct action with greater clarity and emotional investment. To apply this effectively, a narrator should first identify all the strong verbs and critical action beats within the script. Highlight them, underline them, make them stand out, then consider how to give them vocal weight. This could involve a slight increase in volume, a firmer articulation, a subtle change in pitch, or even a micro pause immediately before or after the verb to give it a moment of distinction, allowing it to land with impact. Imagine the physical action Oswald is performing with each verb: the scramble, the dash, the leap, the shove. Let that imagined physical energy infuse your voice. For instance, when Oswald clambers over a wall, the word clambers should sound like effort, a stumble, a scraping of hands and feet. When he bolts into an alley, bolts should carry the sudden, explosive energy of that movement. It's about bringing the physical world of the story into the acoustic space of the listener. Finally, as the chapter draws to a close, we need to simulate exhaustion in the voice. This isn't just a stylistic choice. It's an emotional and physical truth of Oswald's audio. Imagine a marathon runner who has just crossed the finish line. Their chest heaves, sweat glistens on their brow, and when they speak, their voice is hoarse, perhaps a little shaggy, each word an effort. It's not just the words themselves, but the labored breathing between them, the reduced volume, the loss of vocal clarity. Or picture a character in a movie who has barely escaped a life-threatening situation, collapsing onto the ground, gasping for air, their voice weak and almost whispering, tinged with relief and utter depletion. This isn't just about sounding tired. It's about conveying the profound physical and mental toll of what Oswald has just endured psychologically. Simulating exhaustion provides an essential release for both the character and the listener. After the relentless tension and the rapid pace of the escape, the onset of fatigue humanizes Oswald, reminding us that he is vulnerable, not superhuman. It makes his struggle more relatable and his temporary safety, if indeed he finds any, feel hardened and immensely deserved. This vocal shift allows the listener to collectively exhale with Oswald, to feel the dissipation of adrenaline and the heavy slump of relief mixed with outer weariness. It creates a powerful emotional arc, from frantic fear to profound fatigue, reinforcing the authenticity of the narrative and deepening the listener's empathy for Oswald's plight. It's the silent acknowledgement that what has just transpired was genuinely harrowing and that the body and mind must pay a price for such an ordeal. For practical application, a narrator can achieve this by gradually lowering their vocal pitch slightly, as exhaustion often causes the voice to drop to a lower, more resonant register. Volume should naturally decrease, reflecting a lack of energy for projection, perhaps becoming a hushed, almost whispered quality. Crucially, the breathiness we discussed earlier will evolve from rapid and tense to heavy and deliberate. Instead of short, quick gasps, imagine longer, deeper sighs of relief and effort. The pacing of the speech itself should slow down, each word potentially delivered with a sense of effort, as if requiring immense will to utter. Occasional, subtle vocal cracks or a slight tremor can further enhance the feeling of physical depletion and emotional fragility. But this should be used judiciously to avoid sounding overly dramatic or inconsistent. The key is to convey a sense of genuine weariness, a body pushed to its absolute limits, finding a temporary respite but still reeling from the immediate past. It's about letting the voice become a testament to the journey, rather than just a vehicle for the words. In essence, Chapter 9, Midnight Escape, is an invitation to experience a story not just intellectually, but visually. By embracing rapid, breathy pacing, by emphasizing the raw power of verbs and action beats, and by ultimately allowing Oswald's exhaustion to wash over the voice, we create an audible book experience that is undeniably immersive, emotionally resonant, and utterly unforgettable. It's a masterclass in vocal performance that transforms text into a lived reality, compelling you, the listener, to feel every pulse-pounding moment, every desperate breath, every last ounce of strength Oswald expends. And as the chapter fades, leaving Oswald battered and weary but perhaps, for now safe, one can't help but wonder what new dangers await him in the cold, harsh light of dawn. How will he navigate this newfound freedom, a fugitive in a world that believes him guilty? We turn the page, eager to discover his next move, his next struggle, his next small victory, or devastating setback. Chapter 10, Across the Sea. Welcome back, dear listener, to the continuing saga of Oswald Langdon. In this pivotal 10th chapter, titled Across the Sea, we embark alongside Oswald on a journey fraught with both power and profound promise. This is not merely a physical relocation from one continent to another. It is a monumental shift, a metaphorical crossing that symbolizes a fundamental transition in Oswald's life, offering him a momentary, yet deeply significant, respite from the immediate dangers he has faced. Consider, if you will, the profound implications of such a voyage in a bygone era. Imagine standing on the deck of a great ship, the vast, unforgiving expanse of the Atlantic Ocean stretching endlessly before you, behind you, and to every horizon. This journey to America, for Oswald, is far more than just transportation. It represents a dramatic severance from his past, from the familiar landscapes and the haunting specters of his previous life. He is venturing into the unknown, leaving behind the intricate web of European society, the whispers of scandal, and the very real threats that compel his departure. This transition is less about escaping a place and more about escaping a version of himself, a self burdened by circumstance and shadowed by regret. The ocean itself becomes a liminal space, neither here nor there, a void pregnant with potential. And what of the momentary respite this voyage offers? It's crucial to understand that while the immediate dangers of the land might be left behind, the ocean presents its own unique set of trials. The relentless roar of the waves, the fear of storms, the cramped conditions, the ever-present threat of illness, and the gnawing uncertainty of what awaits on the distant shore. Yet, amidst these new perils, there is a profound sense of relief. For a time, Oswald is untouchable by those who pursued him. He is anonymous amidst the throngs of other hopefuls and exiles. This interim period, this floating sanctuary, allows him a rare opportunity, a chance to breathe, to reflect, to mourn what he has lost, and to cautiously dream about what might yet be gained. It is a vital pulse, a chrysalis phase, before his rebirth on new soil. This journey becomes a crucible, forging a new Oswald, albeit one still deeply connected to his past, but now imbued with a fragile, burgeoning sense of hope. Does this resonate with experiences in your own life? Perhaps moments of break, change, or upheaval that offered a brief, quiet space for introspection before the next chapter began. Now, let us delve into the nuances of how we bring this powerful chapter to life through the spoken word, exploring three key aspects that enhance its impact and resonance. Our first objective Crucial for immersing you in Oswald's experience is to employ a rhythmic cadence that skillfully mimics the rolling waves of the open sea. Think about the natural ebb and flow, the gentle sway that can lull you into a state of contemplation, or the sudden surge that can evoke a sense of unease or anticipation. How does this rhythm manifest in storytelling? Well, it's not just about the words themselves, but how they are delivered. It's about the pacing of sentences, the careful placement of pauses, and the subtle variations in vocal tone that can create an auditory landscape mirroring the physical environment. A long, undulating sentence might convey the vast, unbroken horizon, while shorter, more abrupt phrases could signal a sudden squall or moment of internal turmoil. Consider, as a storytelling example, how many seafaring narratives utilize this technique. Ernest Hemingway, in his classic The Old Man and the Sea, uses a stripped-down, repetitive prose style that evokes the tireless, psychical struggle of Santiago against the Mayan, a rhythm that mirrors the relentless pull of the ocean and the passage of time at sea. He was an old man who fished alone in a skiff in the Gulf Stream, and he had gone 84 days now without taking a fish. The simple, declarative opening sets a slow, deliberate pace, a rhythm that carries through the entire novel, much like the steady rocking of a boat. The repetition of day after day, hour after hour, reinforces this sense of rhythmic, unending effort. It draws you into the monotonous yet profound existence of the fisherman, just as we want to draw you into Oswald's voyage. Have you ever noticed how certain musical pieces can evoke a scene or a feeling without a single lyric? That's the power of rhythm. From a psychological perspective, why does this rhythmic cadence matter so deeply to the listener? Our brains are inherently wired to respond to rhythm. From the beating of our own hearts to the circadian rhythms that govern our sleep, rhythm is fundamental to our existence. When we hear a narrative delivered with a deliberate, wave-like rhythm, it can create a powerful sense of immersion and physiological resonance. It can soothe us, drawing us into a semi-hypnotic state where our defenses are lower, making us more receptive to the emotional content of the story. It bypasses purely intellectual processing and taps directly into our emotional centers. This rhythmic vocalization can mimic the very sensations Oswald would have experienced on the ship: the constant motion, the endless sound of water against the hull, thus transporting you, the listener, directly into his world, allowing you to almost feel the deck beneath your feet. It helps create a sense of being present in the narrative, rather than just observing it from a distance. So, how can you, as a discerning listener, practically apply this understanding? When you listen to this chapter, or indeed any audio book, try to consciously tune into the narrator's pacing and intonation. Are there moments where the language flows like a river, and others where it feels choppy and staccato? Notice how these shifts contribute to your emotional response and your understanding of the scene. Furthermore, you can apply this principle to your own communication. Whether you are telling a story to a friend, giving a presentation, or even writing an email, consider the rhythm of your words. How can you use pauses, varied sentence lengths, and intentional emphasis to create a more engaging and impactful message? Practicing reading aloud, focusing on the natural rhythm of sentences, can significantly enhance your ability to connect with your audience. Our second crucial aim in this chapter is to profoundly convey a sense of isolation and contemplation. Oswald's journey across the sea is not merely a physical crossing. It is an intensely internal one. Picture him standing alone at the ship's rail, the vastness of the ocean mirroring the vastness of his own uncertainties and the chasm between his past and his unknown future. There are no familiar faces, no easy conversations to distract him from his thoughts. The constant movement of the ship and the endless horizon strip away the trivialities of daily life, forcing a confrontation with his deepest fears, regrets, and burgeoning hopes. This enforced solitude becomes a fertile ground for profound introspection. Think of literary examples that powerfully depict this kind of isolation. Beyond the vastness of the seas itself, consider stories like Robinson Crusoe, where the protagonist is literally isolated on an island, forcing him to confront his own resourcefulness and inner demons, or the aforementioned Life of Pi, where the protagonist's survival is as much a mental battle as a physical one, played out against the backdrop of an indifferent ocean and the terrifying companionship of a tiger. These stories aren't just about survival. They are about the profound self-discovery that emerges when one is stripped bare of social constructs and forced to rely solely on their inner landscape. For Oswald, this voyage offers precisely that kind of stark, unadorned self-reflection. What questions would you ask yourself if you had weeks of uninterrupted solitude, suspended between two worlds? Psychologically speaking, why is this sense of isolation and contemplation so vital? In our modern, hyper-connected world, true solitude is a rare commodity, yet it is during these periods of quiet introspection that our minds can truly process experiences, consolidate memories, and engage in creative problem-solving without external distractions. Isolation, even temporary, can be a powerful catalyst for self-awareness. It allows us to step outside the noise of daily life and listen to our own inner voice, to examine our motivations, and to reconcile conflicting emotions. It's a period of mental reorganization, much like a computer defragmenting its hard drive, allowing for clearer thought and renewed perspective. For Oswald, this isolation, though potentially uncomfortable, is a necessary bond, allowing him to greet his losses and mentally prepare for the daunting challenges that lie ahead in a new land. It's in these quiet moments that resilience is often forged. How can you, our valued listener, apply this understanding to your own life? While a transatlantic voyage might not be on your immediate horizon, you can intentionally seek out moments of contemplative isolation. This doesn't necessarily mean retreating from the world entirely, but rather carving out dedicated time for reflection. Perhaps it's a long walk in nature, a quiet hour spent journaling, meditating, or simply sitting in silence without the constant input of screens and notifications. By consciously creating these spaces, you can foster your own internal voyages of self-discovery, allowing your mind to process, heal, and prepare for whatever transitions lie ahead in your personal journey. What small pockets of solitude can you create in your busy week to allow for this essential internal work? Finally, we arrive at the accelerating moment when the narrative shifts to a decidedly hopeful tone as Lenny cited. After weeks of nothing but vast ocean, the first faint outline on the horizon as much against the distant sky represents an almost primal release of tension. It's a tangible proof that the journey's end is near, and the promises made are about to be realized. This moment encapsulates the universal human experience of enduring hardship and finally glimpsing the reward, the future, the new beginning. Consider the countless real-world storytelling examples of this specific moment. Think of the millions of immigrants who, throughout history, crossed vast oceans, their hopes and fears riding on the waves, only to be overwhelmed with a surge of emotion at the first sight of Ellis Island or the shores of a new continent. Their stories, often passed down through generations, speak of this exact blend of relief, joy, and trepidation. It's their explorers spotting uncharted territory, the castaway sighting a passing ship, the marathon runner seeing the finish line. This is the moment when an abstract idea of a new life solidifies into concrete reality. For Oswald, it's not just land. It's America, the land of opportunity, the destination that promises a chance to start afresh, free from the entanglements that forced his flight. It is the visual affirmation that his gamble has paid off, that he has survived the perilous crossing, and that a new chapter is truly about to begin psychologically. Why is this shift to hope so profoundly impactful? Hope is an incredibly powerful human emotion, a fundamental driver of resilience and motivation. When land is sighted, it triggers a cascade of neurochemical responses in the brain, a surge of dopamine, the neurotransmitter associated with reward and pleasure, and a decrease in cortisol, the stress hormone. This physical and emotional release is palpable. It affirms the effort expended and validates the risks taken. Hope provides a necessary antidote to despair and uncertainty, allowing individuals to endure unimaginable hardships by providing a focal point for their aspirations. It's the belief that things can and will get better, that the future holds possibility. For Oswald, this moment is a psychological pivot point, transforming him from a fugitive on the run into an individual cautiously embracing a fresh start, looking forward with a burgeoning, albeit still fragile, optimism. So, what are the practical application steps for you, the listener, in recognizing and cultivating this powerful shift? Pay attention to the change in the narrator's voice, the quickening of pace, the uplift in tone and inflection as land is described. Notice how the language itself becomes more vibrant, more descriptive, reflecting the awakening of Oswald's spirits. In your own life, when facing challenges or prolonged periods of difficulty, consciously seek out and celebrate the exciting of land moments, those small victories, those glimmers of progress, those signs that your efforts are bearing fruit. Cultivate hope by setting achievable mini goals, visualizing positive outcomes, and surrounding yourself with supportive influences. Understanding that hope isn't just a passive feeling but an active, vital force can empower you to navigate your own personal seas with greater resilience and a clearer vision of your desired destination. In summary, Chapter 10 Across the Sea is far more than a simple travelogue. It is a profound meditation on transition, isolation, and the enduring power of hope. We witness Oswald Langdon shed the weight of his past on the vast, undulating canvas of the Atlantic, finding a momentary respite that allows for crucial introspection. The rhythmic cadence of the narration draws you into the ceaseless motion of the journey, while the deliberate portrayal of isolation fosters a deep connection to Oswald's inner turmoil and subsequent reflection. And finally, this emotional crescendo of sighting land provides a powerful psychological release, transforming apprehension into burgeoning hope. As this chapter concludes, Oswald stands on the precipice of a brand new world, his feet soon to touch American soil. He carries with him not just his meager belongings, but the lessons learned and the strength forged during this perilous crossing. But what does this new luxury hold for him? Will America be the haven he desperately seeks, or will it present its own unique set of challenges and complexities? Join us in our next chapter as we explore the very first steps Oswald takes into this brave new world, and witness how the seeds of his future begin to take root in unfamiliar ground. Chapter 11 The New World. The salty tang of the open ocean, a constant companion for the past several weeks, was slowly giving way to something else entirely as a majestic vessel. The SS Britannia cut through the steel gray waters of the bay. Oswald Langdon stood at the railing, one hand gripping the cold metal, the other unconsciously smoothing the lapel of his armor rumble, yet still respectable, wheatcoat. Before him, emerging from the early morning mist like a colossal, metallic mirage, stretched the formidable skyline of New York. Did it truly exist outside of the sensationalized engravings in the London papers? It did, and it was grander, more imposing, and infinitely more bewildering than any picture could convey. He felt a curious mixture of exhilaration and a profound unease churning within him. This wasn't merely a new city. It was an entirely new continent, a veritable new world, as the poets and adventurers had so often proclaimed. The air itself seemed to hum with an unfamiliar energy, a palpable buzz of ambition and relentless forward motion. He could hear the distant, raucous cries of gulls mingling with the deep, throaty blasts of tadpoles, cutting their colossal charges towards the bustling piers. The very air felt different, cleaner in some ways, yet laced with the smoky breath of 1,000 unseen factories and the sharp, invigorating scent of industry. Was this the freedom he had so desperately sought? Was this the blank canvas upon which he could finally paint a life of his own design, free from the suffocating expectations and the rigid class structures of his homeland? The questions tumbled through his mind, each one a wave crashing against the shore of his uncertainty. His breath hitched slightly as the ship began its slow, ponderous turn, revealing the Statue of Liberty, majestic and resolute, holding her torch aloft as a beacon to all who arrived. A symbol of hope, perhaps, or merely a silent, imposing guardian of a realm he knew nothing about. As the ship edged closer to the docks, the individual sounds of the city began to resolve themselves into a vibrant symphony of urban life. Chapter 12: Forging Alliances. Welcome back, listeners, to another compelling chapter in this incredible journey of Oswald Langdon. In this installment, Chapter 12: Forging Alliances, we witness Oswald a pivotal juncture, truly embracing the essence of an entrepreneur and diplomat rolled into one. He is no longer merely an observer in this foreign land. He is an active participant, a builder, meticulously constructing a new network of friends and business partners from the ground up, far from the familiar comforts of his homeland. Imagine the challenge, the sheer audacity of starting anew, in a place where customs, language, and business practices might diverge significantly from everything you've ever known. This isn't just about making connections. It's about embedding oneself into the very fabric of a new society, cultivating relationships that transcend mere transactions and blossom into genuine partnerships. How does one achieve this seemingly impossible feat? How does one bridge cultural divides and earn trust when starting with a blank slate? Oswald's approach offers us invaluable insights. Our first crucial lesson from Oswald's journey in this chapter revolves around maintaining a dynamic, engaging tone during negotiations. Have you ever been in a conversation, particularly one of import, where the other party seems distant, robotic, perhaps overly focused on the minutiae of the deal without acknowledging the human element? It's training, isn't it? Oswald understood this implicitly. He wasn't just presenting figures and terms. He was telling a story. His story, the story of his vision, and inviting his potential partners to become a part of it. Consider, for instance, a particular meeting Oswald had with the venerable Madame Nana, a formidable matriarch who controlled a significant portion of the local textile industry. Initial conversations were stiff, almost glacial. Madame Ania, known for her sharp wit and even sharper business acumen, observed Oswald with an unreadable gaze. Instead of pushing harder on the numbers, Oswald shifted gears. He didn't just talk about the quality of his raw materials. He shared an anecdote about the artisan who cultivated the fibers back home, describing the dedication and care involved. He spoke of his own grandfather's textile mill, connecting his lineage to a shared heritage of craftsmanship. He even, with a charmingly imperfect grasp of the local idiom, offered a small, self-deprecating joke about his troubles with the complex language, which elicited a rare, genuine smile from Madame Ania. He listened intently, asking open-ended questions about her family's history in the industry, about her vision for the future. He didn't just hear her words. He heard the passion and the pride behind them. The atmosphere visibly soured, transforming from a sterile boardroom into a space of shared understanding and mutual respect. Why does this matter psychologically? Because humans are fundamentally emotional beings, even in the most formal business settings. A dynamic and engaging tone signals more than just charisma. It communicates confidence, adaptability, and a genuine willingness to connect on a human level. When you maintain such a tone, you're not just presenting a proposition, you're inviting collaboration. You're reducing the perceived risk for the other party by showing them you're a person, not just a profit-driven entity. This fosters rapport, trust, and ultimately, a more productive and harmonious negotiation. People are far more likely to compromise, to find creative solutions, and to commit wholeheartedly to a deal when they feel respected, understood, and even genuinely liked. It taps into our inherent desire for connection and collaboration. So, how can you apply this in your own life, whether in business or personal interactions? Firstly, practice active listening. Don't just wait for your turn to speak. Truly absorb what the other person is saying, both verbally and non-verbally. Secondly, embrace appropriate humor. A well-placed, self-aware joke can instantly diffuse tension and build camaraderie. Thirdly, ask insightful, open-ended questions that demonstrate genuine curiosity about the other person's perspective, their challenges, their aspirations. And finally, remember that your body language speaks volumes. Maintain open posture, make consistent eye contact, and allow your facial expressions to reflect your engagement. Be present, be human, and let your enthusiasm be contagious. Our second key insight from Oswald's journey highlights the profound importance of recognizing and respecting cultural differences. Oswald was not so naive as to assume that his homeland's way of conducting business was the universal standard. He approached every interaction with an open mind, a learner's humility, and a deep appreciation for the unique traditions of this new land. There was one particularly delicate negotiation with a consortium of local spice merchants, known for their elaborate and lengthy introductory rituals before any actual business was discussed. Oswald, initially accustomed to direct, pan-efficient meetings, could have easily grown impatient. Instead, he observed. He learned that the lengthy tea ceremonies, the exchange of personal stories, and the meticulous discussions about family and health were not tangents, but rather the very foundation upon which trust was built. He patiently participated, offering his own stories, expressing genuine interest in their traditions. He even made a slight misstep during a greeting, extending his hand before realizing a bow was more appropriate for the senior elder. Rather than being flustered, he immediately corrected himself with a respectful apology and a heartfelt smile, which was met not with offense, but with an understanding nod and a warmth that conveyed, "He's trying, he cares." This wasn't just tolerance. It was active engagement and adaptation. He understood that in this culture, relationships weren't built on contracts alone, but on shared experiences and a demonstrated commitment to mutual understanding. From a psychological perspective, why is cultural sensitivity so critically important? Because it goes to the very heart of identity and belonging. When you acknowledge and respect another person's cultural norms, you are essentially validating their entire worldview, their heritage, and their values. This creates a powerful sense of psychological safety, making them feel seen, heard, and esteemed. Dismissing or ignoring cultural differences, on the other hand, can instantly erect impenetrable barriers, leading to misunderstanding, resentment, and a complete breakdown of trust. It suggests arrogance and a lack of empathy. By demonstrating cultural intelligence, Oswald showed he valued the people he was interacting with, not just their potential business. This fosters reciprocity. When you respect others, they are far more likely to respect you in return, paving the way for deeper, more meaningful, and ultimately more successful partnerships. It moves interactions from a transactional level to a relational one. How can you apply this principle? Start with curiosity. Before engaging in a new cultural context, do your research. Learn about common customs, greetings, communication styles, and taboos. During interactions, be an astute observer. Watch how people interact. Listen to the nuances of their language and adapt your behavior accordingly. Don't be afraid to ask polite, open-ended questions about their traditions. People are often eager to share their culture when approached with genuine interest. Be patient. Avoid making quick judgments. And remember that understanding is a continuous journey, not a destination. A willingness to learn, even from your own mistakes, is perceived as a profound strength. Finally, as this chapter draws to a close, we witness the culmination of Oswald's efforts, ending on a triumphant note as a major deal is struck. All the careful preparation, the dynamic negotiations, the cultural sensitivity is all converged into a moment of shared success. The deal, after weeks of patient discussion and relationship building, was with the aforementioned Madame Anna to establish a joint venture for a new line of ethically sourced, high-quality textiles that would merge Oswald's innovative designs with Anna's unparalleled access to local artisans and materials. The signing ceremony wasn't a drab affair in a lawyer's office. It was a festive event held in Madame Anna's ancestral home, adorned with intricate tapestries and the scent of exotic incense. There was a symbolic exchange of gifts. Oswald presented a finely crafted, personalized pen, while Madame Anna offered a beautifully embroidered silk scarf, a family heirloom. As their hands met over the signed documents, a deep sense of accomplishment filled the air. There were heartfelt speeches, not about profit margins, but about shared vision, mutual respect, and the promise of a brighter future for both their communities. A celebratory feast followed, replete with local delicacies and toasts to a long and prosperous partnership. Oswald felt not just the satisfaction of successful negotiation, but the warmth of genuine friendship. He had not merely secured a business agreement. He had woven himself into the social fabric of this new land. Supposedly, this triumphant close is more than just the end of a negotiation. It's a powerful affirmation. It validates all the efforts, the patience, and the emotional investment made by both parties. It reinforces the belief that the collaborative approach yields superior results and creates a positive feedback loop that encourages future cooperation. The shared celebration solidifies the bond, moving the relationship beyond a transactional arrangement to one built on mutual trust and shared success. This feeling of shared victory enhances commitment, fosters loyalty, and creates a foundation for enduring partnership, proving that the journey of forging alliances can be as rewarding as the destination itself. It taps into our deep-seated need for belonging and accomplishment, making the success feel even more profound. For your own applications, once a significant deal or agreement is reached, don't just move on to the next task. Take time to celebrate the milestone, acknowledging everyone's contributions. Express sincere gratitude to all involved parties. Follow through on every promise made during the negotiation, no matter how small. Maintain open lines of communication even after the ink is dry, checking in periodically and looking for ways to continue adding value to the relationship beyond the initial scope. Remember, the signing of the deal is just the beginning of a long and hopefully prosperous journey together. As we conclude Chapter 12, we leave Oswald Langdon not just with a new business venture, but with a burgeoning network of genuine friends and respected partners in a foreign land. He has demonstrated that true alliance building transcends language barriers and cultural divides, flourishing on the fertile ground of mutual respect, keen listening, and genuine human connection. But what challenges will arise as these new alliances are put to the test? How will Oswald navigate the complexities of implementation in a new cultural landscape? Join us next time as Oswald's journey continues to unfold, proving that the path to success is rarely straight, but always rich with discovery. Chapter 13: A Letter from the Past. Welcome, dear listeners, to Chapter 13 of Oswald Langdon, a chapter that reminds us that even across vast oceans and burgeoning new lives, the tendrils of the past possess an undeniable reach. We've seen Oswald flourish, haven't we? Building a new existence, finding his footing, perhaps even daring to dream of a future unshackled by the shadows of yesterday. But life, as we know, has a peculiar way of reminding us of unfinished business, of the connections that bind us, whether we wish them to or not. This chapter brings precisely such a moment, a pivotal turning point where the tranquil present is abruptly shattered by a stark message from a distant shore. Our core concept for this chapter is profoundly simple yet utterly devastating. The past catches up as correspondence reveals dire news from England, imagines, if you will, the rarity peace Oswald has cultivated. He might be sitting by a window, a warm mug in his hand, gazing at a landscape vastly different from the smoky industrial backdrop he left behind. Perhaps he's planning a new venture, feeling the thrill of independence course through his veins. He might even be humming a quiet tune, a testament to a newfound contentment. Then, a knock at the door. A messenger, delivering a letter. Not a casual note, mind you, but an official-looking envelope, perhaps sealed with a crest, its very appearance suggesting gravity. This isn't just a piece of paper. It's a direct conduit from a word he thought he'd put behind him, carrying with it a weight that will instantly redefine his priorities and his path forward. It's a stark reminder that geographical distance does not equate to emotional or familial disconnection, and that the echoes of one's origins can reverberate across any expanse. Let's delve deeper into the intricate mechanics of how such a narrative bombshell is delivered, exploring the key points that make this chapter so compelling. Our first crucial element is the massive transition from an optimistic tone to one of dread. How does an author achieve such a profound shift in mood, practically in an instant, without it feeling jarring or unearned? It's all about contrast, isn't it? We've been guided through Oswald's journey, witnessing his struggles and celebrating his small triumphs. We've seen him rebuild, brick by emotional brick, a semblance of peace. This initial backdrop of burgeoning hope serves to heighten the impact of the impending bad news. Think of it like this. The sun is shining, birds are singing, and Oswald is enjoying a rare moment of genuine calm, perhaps even a quiet chuckle to himself about some recent success. Then, the letter arrives. At first, it's just a letter, a curiosity. He opens it, perhaps with a slight smile, anticipating news from home, perhaps a celebratory update or a mundane family anecdote. But as his eyes scan the lines, that smile fades. His brow furrows. The warmth in the room seems to dissipate, replaced by a sullen chill. The sounds of the outside world, the chirping birds, the distant murmur of life recede, leaving only the ominous silence of his own dawning realization. A real-world storytelling example of this would be the opening of a classic film where a character is seen happily preparing for a significant life event, a wedding, a graduation, a new job, only to have their joyous anticipation abruptly interrupted by a telegram or a phone call delivering tragic news. Consider the scene in countless period dramas where a family is gathered for a festive occasion, and a sour-faced messenger delivers a letter, instantly casting a pall over the entire household. The vividness of the initial happiness makes the subsequent dread almost unbearable psychologically. Why does this matter so much in storytelling? Because it mirrors the human experience. Our lives are rarely monolithic. Moments of profound joy can be followed by crushing sorrow, and vice versa, often without warning. This juxtaposition, this sudden pivot from light to shadow, amplifies an emotional resonance for the listener. It creates empathy because we recognize the fragility of happiness. It grounds the narrative in reality, making Oswald's emotional journey relatable. When an author effectively builds up a sense of well-being before tearing it down, the listener feels the characters lose more acutely, making the turning point all the more impactful and memorable. It's not just dread. It's the loss of optimism, the shattering of a fragile piece, which resonates deeply. For you, the aspiring storyteller or even just the attentive listener, the practical application steps are clear. To achieve this transition, an author must first invest heavily in establishing that optimistic state. Use sensory details, the warmth of the fire, the taste of a good meal, the sound of a loved one's laughter. Then, introduce the disruptor subtly at first, perhaps a nagging feeling, a brief moment of unease, before the full weight of the bad news descends. The language itself can shift from flowing, let prose to clipped, stark sentences, a change in pace, a longer pause, or a stark description of the character's physical reaction, a dropped object, a sudden stillness, a hand clenching can all convey this dramatic shift. Our second key point focuses on the delivery of the news itself. The latter needs to be read in a distinct, slightly distant voice. Why is this important, especially in an audiobook? Because it immediately differentiates the content of the letter from the narrator's voice and Oswald's internal thoughts. This isn't just the story being told. It's a direct transmission from another place, another time, another sender. The slightly distant quality suggests the journey the letter has undertaken, the former nature of the communication, and perhaps even the inherent solemnity of its message. It's a voice from a world Oswald purposefully left behind, now reaching out to pull him back. Let's imagine the contents of this dire letter. Perhaps it speaks of a sudden, severe illness befalling a beloved younger sister, or the rapid decline of an aging parent, with a plea for Oswald's immediate return. It might detail financial ruin that threatens to engulf his entire family, placing the burden of their survival squarely on his shoulders. The specifics aren't yet crucial, but the tone is. It's formal, perhaps even terse, conveying urgency and gravity without unnecessary emotional embellishment, which only serves to make the underlying pain more potent. The letter isn't asking, it's demanding, by the sheer force of its content. A real-world storytelling example of this technique is quite common in historical dramas or literary adaptations where letters are read aloud. Think of how a different actor might voice the letter's words in a play, or how a single narrator might alter the pitch cadence and timbre to portray a different character speaking. In film, sometimes a faint echo or slightly filtered sound effect might be used to give the letter's voice an ethereal, detached quality, emphasizing that it's a voice from the past, a memory, or an urgent message breaking through from afar. It's about creating an auditory separation, a clear demarcation for the listener psychologically. The impact of this distinct voice is profound. It enhances immersion by creating a multi-layered auditory experience. It prevents confusion, ensuring the listener understands exactly who is speaking and the context of their words. More importantly, it imbues the latter with an undeniable sense of authority and authenticity. This isn't just the narrator summarizing. It's the actual message, unfiltered, raw, and direct from its source. It makes the distant past feel immediate and undeniable, almost as if the listener is also present, hearing the words for the first time alongside Oswald. It underscores the profound psychological impact of receiving such news from a world that had become a memory. For the practical application, consider how a skilled audiobook narrator might achieve this. It's not about doing a caricatural voice. It's a subtle shift, perhaps a slightly lower register, a slower pace, a more formal articulation, or a more even, less emotionally inflected tone, at least initially, to convey the gravity without immediate panic. It's about creating an acoustic space for the sender of the letter, making their presence felt through their words. The language within the letter itself often lends itself to this, perhaps with more formal phrasing or slightly over style of expression, further emphasizing its origins. Finally, we arrive at our third crucial point, portraying Oswald's shock and immediate resolve to act. The news delivered by the distinct, distant voice of the letter is not just understood, it's felt. This is where the narrative truly pivots. The initial reaction is pure, unadulterated shock. We expect a physical manifestation. The letter might slip from his fingers, his jaw might slacken, his eyes might widen, fixed on some unseen point in the distance as the words sink in, reverberating in the echoed chamber of his mind. A gasp, perhaps, or a sudden, sharp intake of breath. For a moment, time might seem to stand still, the world around him fading into an indistinct blur as his entire being focuses on the devastating implications of what he has just read. But then comes the transition from paralysis to proportion, from shock to resolve. Oswald is not a man to be entirely sent down. While the initial blow might steady him, his character demands action. The weight of the news, rather than crushing him, seems to galvanize him. The immediate resolve isn't about panicking or despairing. It's about a clear, decisive understanding of what must be done. His mind, so reeling, begins to race with logistics, how to get back to England, how to arrange passage, what preparations need to be made. It's an internal dialogue, yes, but one that swiftly translates into external, urgent movements. Perhaps he strides to a map, consults a schedule, or begins to gather his belongings with a fierce, almost desperate energy. The quiet peace he once enjoyed is utterly, irreversibly shattered, replaced by a singular, consuming purpose. A real-world storytelling example of this would be the classic hero archetype receiving an urgent distress call. Think of a seasoned detective learning of a threat to their family and instantly dropping everything. The calm demeanor replaced by laser-like focus and urgent movement. Or a leader hearing of a crisis in their homeland and immediately beginning to strategize their return. The personal desires completely is overridden by a sense of duty and urgency. The shift is almost instantaneous, from contemplation or even domesticity to a state of absolute readiness for perilous journey or difficult confrontation. It's the activation of the fight-or-flight response, a channel through character and responsibility psychologically. Why is this transition from shock to resolve so important? It defines Oswald's character with remarkable clarity. It showcases his inherent strength, his agency, and his deep-seated commitment to those he cares about, his family above all. It's a testament to his values. He doesn't wallow, he acts. This forward momentum is crucial for plot development, moving the narrative beyond passive reception of news into active engagement with the unfolding crisis. It allows the listener to connect with Oswald on a deeper level, respecting his resilience and his unwavering sense of duty. This immediate resolve, born of crisis, makes him an even more compelling protagonist, demonstrating that even when blindsided by the past, he possesses the inner fortitude to meet its challenges head-on. For the practical application, an author would focus on showing, not just telling, Oswald's reactions. Described the sudden tension in his shoulders, the determined set of his jaw, the rapid, purposeful movements of his hands as he begins to pack or make inquiries. Let his internal monologue be filled with questions of logistics and strategy, rather than purely emotional lamentations, though the underlying grief and fear are palpable. The dialogue, if any, would become clear, urgent, and focused entirely on the immediate task. Going home, the narrative pace would quicken, reflecting the accelerating urgency of the situation. So, as we bring our thoughts on chapter 13 to a close, we witness a profound shift. The quiet optimism Oswald had meticulously cultivated has been irrevocably shattered by a single, potent letter from England. This unexpected correspondence has ripped open old wounds and stirred dormant loyalties, compelling him to abandon his burgeoning new life and confront the dire circumstances awaiting him across the sea. The distinct voice of the past has spoken, and Oswald, despite an immense personal cost, has chosen to listen and, crucially, to act. This journey, once forward-looking and self-determined, has now been drastically rerouted, placing him on a collision course with a future he never anticipated. The question that hangs in the air, dear listener, is not merely what challenges await him upon his return, but how this forced confrontation with his origins is shaped the man he has become. What parts of the new Oswald will survive the journey back into the old world, and what new strength will emerge from the crucible of this unforeseen crisis. Join me next time as we embark on chapter 14, where Oswald begins the arduous journey back to England, a journey not just across an ocean, but back into the very heart of his past. Chapter 14, The Betrayal Reveal. Welcome back, listeners, to the continuing saga of Oswald Langdon. In this chapter, we delve into a moment that will irrevocably alter his path, a revelation that has been brewing beneath the surface of his life for far too long. We stand on the precipice of chapter 14, The Betrayal Reveal, a title that promises exactly what it delivers, the unmasking of the true mastermind behind Oswald's earlier downfall. This isn't merely a plot twist. It's the seismic shift that redefines every relationship, every struggle, and every achievement Oswald has experienced. It forces a complete re-evaluation of his past, casting shadows where he once saw light, and illuminating motivations he never dared to suspect. Think of it as a moment a seemingly solid foundation cracks, revealing the rock beneath. It's the moment Oswald finally understands why his world crumbled, and that answer comes from a source he least expected, making the truth far more bitter than any lie. As we unpack this pivotal moment, let's consider how such a profound truth is best conveyed. Our first crucial element is to deliver the twist with a sharp, impactful tone. This isn't a casual aside. It's a dramatic reveal that should snap the listener's attention into sharp focus. Why does tone matter so intensely here? Because the revelation of this magnitude, one that rewrites history for our protagonist, demands an announcement that is as clear as it is devastating. It must cut through any lingering confusion or doubt, leaving no room for misinterpretation. Imagine that iconic scene in The Sixth Sense, when Dr. Malcolm Crowe slowly comprehends his own reality. The subtle shift in Bruce Willis's eyes, the dawn in her, isn't delivered with a whisper or a question mark. It's a stark, undeniable truth that settles with chilling finality. Similarly, when Darth Vader uttered those earth-shattering words, "No, I am your father," the delivery wasn't hesitant. It was a powerful, guttural declaration that redefined the hero's lineage and purpose. From a psychological perspective, delivering such a twist with a sharp, impactful tone is vital because it addresses our inherent human need for clarity and resolution, even when that resolution is painful. Our brains are wired to identify patterns and seek meaning. When a narrative introduces a significant disruption like a betrayal, the manner in which that truth is unveiled profoundly impacts our processing of it. A blunt, precise delivery prevents the audience from glossing over the moment or misinterpreting its gravity. It creates a definitive before and after point in a story, solidifying the new reality for both the characters and the listeners. It's an intellectual and emotional jolt, ensuring that the critical information is absorbed and its implications immediately begin to resonate. Without that sharpness, the twist risks feeling understated, or worse confusing, diminishing its long-term impact on the narrative and our connection to Oswald's journey. So, how do we practically apply this principle when crafting such a moment in storytelling? As a narrator, this means employing a vocal cadence that is deliberate, unhurried yet firm, allowing each word to land with weight. It might involve a slight lowering of pitch, a pause just before the crucial name or fact is uttered, building a tiny pocket of suspense. For the writer, it means choosing the most precise, unambiguous language possible. Avoid euphemisms or vague hints in the direct moment of revelation. Instead, state the truth plainly and unequivocally. Consider the rhythm of the sentence structure. A short, declarative sentence can often carry more punch than a long, winding one. Ensure that the build-up to this moment, the breadcrumbs of suspicion, however subtle, justify the sudden, impactful unveiling. The dramatic power comes not from ambiguity, but from a stark contrast between expectation and reality, hammered home by a clear, undeniable delivery. This directness is a gift to the listener, ensuring they are right there, in the moment of discovery, experiencing the full force of Oswald's world being appended. Following closely on the heels of such a monumental revelation, our second crucial point is to let the silence linger after the initial impact. This isn't an absence of sound, but rather a profound presence of stillness, allowing the weight of the truth to settle. Think of it as a narrative breath, a moment where the world seems to hold its own, collectively absorbing the shock. Why is this silence so incredibly powerful? Because it grants the audience, and importantly, Oswald himself, the necessary space to process the emotional and intellectual earthquake that has just occurred. It allows the full implications of the betrayal to sink in, to resonate within the listener's own thoughts and feelings. Imagine watching a powerful scene in a film where a shocking confession is made. Often, the background music will suddenly cease, and the camera will hold on a character's stunned face for an extended bit. This isn't accidental. It's a deliberate choice to amplify the impact. Consider the quiet aftermath in The Usual Suspects, with the true identity of key sources revealed, the lingering shot on Ken's limping figure, the slow dawning realization. The lack of immediate dialogue or action forces the viewer to confront the truth without distraction. Psychologically, the power of silence in storytelling is immense. It forces introspection. In a world saturated with constant noise and information, a sudden, deliberate quiet commands attention. It allows the emotional resonance of the moment to truly settle, preventing the next piece of dialogue or plot development from immediately overshadowing the profound importance of what was just said. It provides a mental and emotional buffer, giving the brain time to connect new information with existing knowledge, reevaluating past events in light of the new truth. For Oswald, this silence is likely filled with a cacophony of internal thoughts, replaying conversations, reinterpreting gestures, seeing past kindnesses as calculated manipulations. For the audience, it creates a moment of shared vulnerability with Oswald, allowing us to feel the shock and dismay alongside him, deepening our empathy and connection to his trouble. This silence is not empty. It is pregnant with the gravity of the irreversible truth that has just shattered his world. To apply this effectively in an audiobook script, the narrator's pacing becomes paramount. After delivering the impactful twist, the narrator might intentionally slow their speech, leaving a noticeable pause, perhaps even describing the silence itself. A heavy silence descended, thick and suffocating, absorbing the very air from the room. Or, the words hung in the space between them, unmoving, undeniable. For the writer, this means explicitly calling for these moments within the script. It's not just about what is said, but also about what is not said and the deliberate spaces in between. You might describe the internal stillness of the character or the sudden absence of ambient sound. Encourage the listener to inhabit that quiet space with Oswald. This pause allows the magnitude of the betrayal to truly land, giving full weight to the reveal before the narrative presses forward into the inevitable consequences. It is a moment of necessary processing, both for the character and for everyone tuned in. And what are those inevitable consequences for Oswald in the immediate aftermath? Our final key point addresses the powerful, complex, emotional response, expressing Oswald's mixture of anger and sorrow. Betrayal, especially from someone deeply trusted, rarely elicits a singular emotion. It's a multi-layered wound that rips through the fabric of trust and affection. Why is portraying this duality so crucial for a character like Oswald? Because it demonstrates a profound level of emotional authenticity, making him relatable and his pain palpable. When Hamlet discovers Clodoris's treachery, he isn't simply enraged. He is also profoundly sorrowful for his father's loss and disgusted by his mother's hasty marriage. His anger fuels his quest for vengeance, but his sorrow underlies his melancholic nature and internal conflict. Similarly, Luke Skywalker's reaction to Vader's revelation is not just anger. It's a deep, personal agony, a sense of his entire identity being shattered, tinged with despair. It's the heartbreak of a son, mixed with the rage of a hero. From a psychological standpoint, showing both anger and the sorrow in the face of betrayal reflects the true human experience of profound hurt. Anger is often the immediate, protective response, a surge of energy directed outwards, a demand for justice, a raw expression of injustice and violation. It's a fight response, a way to claim agency in the face of being wronged. But beneath that anger lies sorrow, the grief for what was lost, the loss of a treasured relationship, the shattering of an ideal, the painful realization that the past shared was perhaps nothing more than an elaborate lie. It's a deep, internal ache for the innocence that can never be reclaimed, for the trust that has been irrevocably broken. Presenting both emotions makes Oswald a more complex, believable character. It prevents him from becoming a one-dimensional caricature of rage or despair, allowing the audience to empathize with the full spectrum of his emotional devastation. This complexity fosters a deeper connection, as we recognize the miserability of human emotion within him. Practically speaking, how does one convey this intricate emotional blend in an audible script? As the narrator, this could involve subtle shifts in vocal tone. A voice initially sharp with intonation might tremble slightly, or a sigh might escape, conveying a deeper well of pain beneath the surface. For the writer, it means describing both the outward manifestations of anger, a clenched jaw, a sharp intake of breath, a harsh whisper, and the inward, more vulnerable expressions of sorrow, a sudden slump of the shoulders, a welling of unshed tears, a quiet tremor in the voice. Oswald's internal monologue might reveal these conflicts directly. His mind raged, demanding vengeance, yet his heart ached with a loss so profound it felt like a limb had been torn away. His dialogue could oscillate between cutting accusations and mournful questions about why. This careful interplay of outward force and inner fragility creates a portrait of a man utterly devastated, yet perhaps also on the precipice of a new, more hardened resolve. It makes his pain resonate deeply, moving us beyond mere observation into shared experience. And so, we leave Oswald at this pivotal juncture. The mastermind behind its earlier downfall has been unmasked, delivered with a sharp, undeniable truth, followed by a lingering silence that amplifies the shock. He stands now, grappling with a tempest of anger and profound sorrow, his past irrevocably altered, his future uncertain. This chapter has not just revealed a betrayal. It has initiated a transformation, stripping away old illusions and forging a new, perhaps more formidable, version of Oswald Langdon. What will he do with this devastating knowledge? Will vengeance consume him, or will sorrow guide him towards a different path? The answer awaits us as we prepare for Chapter 15, The Reckoning, where Oswald must confront not only his betrayer, but the very depths of his own shaken soul. Chapter 15, Deepening Bonds. Welcome, dear listener, to Chapter 15 of Oswald Langdon, titled Deepening Bonds. In this pivotal chapter, we delve into the profound truth that even the most formidable individuals, those burdened by immense responsibility and facing daunting adversaries, find their truest strength not in solitary resilience, but in the intricate tapestry of human connection. Here, our protagonist Oswald discovers that the romantic subplots and the deep friendships he forges become not mere distractions or pleasant interludes, but fundamental pillars providing him with the unwavering strength to fight back against the encroaching darkness. It is through these genuine, heartfelt relationships that Oswald finds a renewed purpose, a powerful sense of belonging, and the emotional fortitude to face the trials ahead. Have you ever considered how the deepest attachments in your own life have, perhaps unexpectedly, become the wellspring of your greatest courage? Let us first explore the nuanced art of employing a soft, intimate tone for romantic interactions, a narrative choice that profoundly shapes our understanding of Oswald's burgeoning affections. In storytelling, particularly in audiobooks, the way a romantic scene is conveyed transcends mere dialogue. It's about the subtle inflections, the unspoken understandings, and the almost imperceptible shifts in atmosphere. Imagine, for instance, a scene where Oswald finds himself in a quiet, secluded moment with someone he deeply cares for, perhaps Hilara, the enigmatic scholar whose intellect matches his own, or Serafina, whose fiery spirit complements his of a reserved nature. The narration doesn't require grand, sweeping pronouncements of love. Instead, it might describe the way his voice, usually firm and authoritative, softens almost imperceptibly, dropping an octave or two when he addresses her. The lingering pause before he responds to a personal question, the gentle shift in his posture as he turns fully towards her, the quiet weight of a shared glance that communicates volumes more than any spoken word ever could. These are the moments where intimacy isn't just described, but felt, a hushed whisper that conveys profound connection, a tender gesture that speaks of cherished vulnerability, or the serene comfort of simply being in each other's presence without the need for constant conversation. From a psychological perspective, why does this soft, intimate tone resonate so deeply with us? It's because such delicate portrayals mirror the safe, enclosed space that true emotional intimacy creates between individuals. It acts as a powerful signal, both to the characters within the story and to us, the listeners, that a deep level of trust and vulnerability has been established. This kind of nuanced interaction allows us to project our own yearning for connection and understanding onto the characters, making their experiences profoundly relatable. It bypasses purely intellectual analysis, traveling directly to the emotional core, creating a warm, lasting impression. We don't just hear Oswald's words, we feel the tenderness behind them, the depth of his affection, and the burgeoning hope for reconnection that transcends the chaotic world around him. To achieve this in storytelling, writers must select words that evoke tenderness and closeness, focusing on sensory details, the warmth radiating from a held hand, the subtle scent of another's presence, the quiet, rhythmic beat of a heart in shared proximity. For us, as listeners, the practical application is to actively tune into these subtle vocal shifts from the narrator, to notice the carefully placed pauses, the changes in volume, and the sensory descriptions, allowing them to draw us deeper into the emotional landscape of the narrative. Moving on, we come to the crucial aspect of emphasizing vulnerability and trust in the dialogue. True bonds are forged in the crucible of shared truths, particularly those we usually keep hidden. Consider the scene where Oswald, despite his inherent caution, his history of betrayal, or his personal insecurities, finds himself confessing a fear, a profound doubt, or a secret ambition to a trusted companion. This might be too serious, to agree that wise man Bob was seen much, or perhaps too much. The spirited and loyal ally whose straightforward honesty demands the same in return. His voice might quiver slightly, his gaze might momentarily falter, but crucially, the other character's response is one of unwavering acceptance, devoid of judgment. They don't try to fix him or dismiss his feelings. They simply acknowledge and understand. In a romantic context, Oswald might have made a profound personal witness to his partner, perhaps the lingering fear of failure that haunts his every move. Instead of a dismissal, of course you'll succeed, the response is often more profound. We'll face it together. You don't have to carry this burden alone. This isn't just about emotional support. It's about the conscious decision to reveal one's unguarded soul and to be met with unconditional acceptance. Psychologically, why is vulnerability so paramount to genuine connection? Because it is the ultimate act of trust. To be vulnerable is to take a risk, to expose oneself to potential hurt or rejection. When a character demonstrates this profound vulnerability and is met with acceptance and understanding, an unbreakable bond is forged. This resonates deeply with us because it reflects our own fundamental human need to be seen, truly seen, understood, and accepted for who we are, with all our imperfections and insecurities. It's the raw, unfiltered truth of emotional intimacy, elevating relationships beyond superficial interactions and imbuing them with profound depth and meaning. It's in this moment that characters cease to be mere archetypes and become fully fleshed, relatable beings. To embody this, writers must craft dialogue that not only advances the plot but also exposes the inner landscape of the characters, making them feel real and relatable. For us, the listeners, the practical application lies in recognizing these powerful exchanges. Are characters sharing secrets? Are they expressing fears or hopes they wouldn't normally articulate? Is there a moment where one character truly listens without interruption or judgment, offering solace rather than immediate solutions? These are the moments where the foundation of trust is being laid, brick by emotional brick. Finally, we must emphasize the importance of creating a warm, emotional resonance with the listener. This is where the story truly transcends mere narrative and becomes an immersive experience. Consider, for a moment, a scene where Oswald observes his newfound companions sharing a moment of genuine laughter, perhaps around a flickering campfire after a long, arduous journey. A rare, unbidden smile might grace his usually guarded features, and the narration could describe a tangible feeling of warmth spreading through his chest, a sense of belonging he hadn't consciously realized he so desperately craved. Or perhaps, after a particularly grueling confrontation, his romantic partner simply holds him, offering silent comfort, and the listener feels the palpable relief, the sheer sense of safety radiating from that quiet embrace. It's not merely about describing what happens, but meticulously detailing how it feels. The descriptions focus not on external actions, but on the internal emotional impact, the comfort, the solace, the unexpected joy, or the quiet contentment that these profound relationships bring to Oswald's often tumultuous existence. From a psychological standpoint, this emotional resonance is what connects us to the story on a visceral level. When the narrative successfully evokes genuine feelings within us, warmth, empathy, hope, or love, it transforms the listening experience from passive reception to active, affective engagement. This creates a lasting impression, making the story infinitely more memorable and impactful. It's about tapping into universal human experiences and emotions, allowing us to not just hear Oswald's story, but to feel it deeply, to internalize its emotional landscape, and to recognize echoes of our own lives within his journey. This is where stories cease to be mere entertainment and become deeply meaningful, enriching our understanding of the human condition. For the storyteller, the practical application involves using vivid imagery and rich sensory details to paint a compelling emotional picture. Describe the feeling of a comforting touch, the resonant sound of a loved one's voice, the comforting aroma of a shared meal, or the simple joy found in a shared gaze. For us, the listeners, the invitation is to allow ourselves to be fully immersed in the sensory details, to let the emotions wash over us, to recognize that these are the moments where the story truly comes alive and connects with our innermost selves. In summary, Deepening Bonds is more than just a chapter about relationships. It's a testament to the profound power of human connection. The soft, intimate tone of romantic interactions, the emphasis on vulnerability and trust in dialogue, and the deliberate creation of a warm, emotional resonance all combine to build an unbreakable foundation of strength for Oswald. These aren't just pleasant diversions. They are the very essence of his resilience, the wellspring from which he draws the courage to face seemingly insurmountable odds. These bonds become his anchor in the storm, his light in the encroaching darkness. As we move forward, these emotional pillars will prove absolutely crucial, providing Oswald with the strength, the hope, and the profound personal reasons to fight back, transforming his solitary struggle into a shared quest. In the chapters that follow, we will see how these deepening bonds are tested, affirmed, and ultimately become the very heart of his resolve. Chapter 16: The Trial of Character. Welcome back, dear listener, to the compelling narrative of Oswald Langdon. In this 16th chapter, aptly titled The Trial of Character, we delve into a pivotal moment in Oswald's journey, one that will test his resilience, his integrity, and indeed, the very essence of his being. This chapter's core concept revolves around Oswald's urgent need to navigate a difficult lead-up of social trial to clear his name abroad. Imagine the profound isolation, the immense pressure of being accused of something you didn't do, far from home, with your reputation and future hanging precariously in the balance. How does one confront such an immense challenge, not just with words, but with an unwavering spirit? This isn't merely a little battle. It's a profound test of character, a crucible that will forge or break him. Oswald must meticulously dissect the accusations against him, present his defense with unwavering conviction, and ultimately restore his tarnished honor in the eyes of a foreign court and a skeptical public. The stakes, as you can well imagine, couldn't be higher. To truly convey the gravity and eventual triumph of such a moment, certain narrative techniques become paramount. First among these is a crucial directive to adopt a formal, authoritative tone for the trial scenes. Why is this so vital? Consider a courtroom itself, a place of solemnity, of established rules, where logic and decorum are expected to reign. Oswald, as he stands before this foreign tribunal, must embody a persona that commands respect, not through aggression, but through a dignified, unwavering presentation of facts. Let's think of a real-world storytelling example that illustrates this beautifully. Recall the powerful cultural dramas where an attorney, perhaps even the defendant themselves, delivers a closing statement that resonates with profound conviction. Picture a scene where, after enduring hours of grueling cross-examination, the protagonist rises, their voice clear and measured, laying out the truth with an undeniable sense of self-possession. They don't shout. They speak with the quiet, potent authority of someone who knows their innocence and is unafraid to articulate it. This isn't about mere volume. It's about the resonance, the deliberate pacing, the careful articulation of each word, all imbued with an inner strength. From a psychological perspective, adopting such a tone is profoundly impactful because it instantly elevates the speaker's perceived credibility and confidence. When someone speaks with formality and authority, our subconscious mind often interprets this as a sign of expertise, conviction, and control. It suggests that the speaker is not swayed by emotion, but is grounded in truth and reason. This calm assertiveness can disarm adversaries, reassure allies, and sway neutral observers. It communicates that the speaker respects the process, values the truth, and is entirely serious about the gravity of the situation. For Oswald, this tone wouldn't just be a performance. It would be a manifestation of his inherent character, a silent declaration of his innocence before he even utters a single sentence. Now, how can we apply this practically, even beyond the courtroom? For you, the listener, consider moments in your own life where clarity and conviction are required. Negotiating a critical agreement, presenting a significant project, or even having a difficult but necessary conversation. Practicing controlled breathing, enunciating clearly, and choosing your words with precision can imbue your voice with that same sense of authority, helping you to be heard, understood, and respected. It's about projecting an inner certainty outwards. Our second key point emphasizes the need to pace the argument rhythmically, much like a carefully orchestrated debate. Why rhythm? Because an argument, however logical, can be lost in the torrent of undifferentiated speech. Rhythm transforms information into a compelling narrative, making it not just understandable, but memorable and persuasive. To illustrate, consider the eloquence of a skilled debater who doesn't just list points, but builds them, one upon the other, creating a logical staircase that leads inexorably to their conclusion. They might use short, declarative sentences for impact, followed by longer, more explanatory passages. They might pause dramatically before unveiling a crucial piece of evidence, or accelerate their delivery slightly to convey a surge of righteous indignation, before returning to a steady, thoughtful cadence for their summation. This isn't random. It's a deliberate sculpting of sound and silence, of speed and measure. Psychologically, rhythmic pacing plays a powerful role in maintaining listener engagement and facilitating comprehension. Our brains are naturally attuned to patterns and cadences. A well-paced argument feels structured, organized, and easier to follow. It prevents mental fatigue and allows the listener to absorb complex information more effectively. Moreover, a compelling rhythm can subtly influence emotional responses, building anticipation, driving home critical points, and even creating a sense of inevitability around the speaker's conclusions. It makes the argument feel not just correct, but right, almost predestined. For Oswald, this rhetoric presentation would not only clarify his defense but also subtly draw the court into his perspective, making his innocence feel like the natural, inescapable outcome. For your own practical application, think about presentations or important discussions you might have. Instead of just speaking, consciously vary your sentence structure, use strategic pauses, and build your points incrementally. Don't rush. Allow your ideas space to breathe and resonate. This mindful approach to speaking can transform a mere recital of facts into a truly engaging and persuasive exchange. Finally, we must highlight the triumph of truth in the vocal delivery. This isn't just about the words that declare Oswald innocent. It's about the emotional release, the resounding affirmation that comes with vindication. The voice, in this culminating moment, must embody that victory. Imagine a powerful storytelling example. The moment in a classic film where the falsely accused character receives their acquittal. There might be a collective gasp in the courtroom, followed by the judge's clear declaration. But what truly makes that scene unforgettable is the subtle shift in the protagonist's voice, perhaps a tremor of relief that quickly transforms into a winning clarity, a strength that was always there, now finally unburdened and free to express itself fully. It's not a shout of defiance, but a profound, resonant affirmation of justice served, a quiet but undeniable echo of victory. The voice itself becomes a vessel for the emotional catharsis, not just for the character, but for the audience that has invested in their struggle psychologically. The vocal delivery of the triumph of truth offers a powerful sense of closure and emotional satisfaction. It resonates deeply because it taps into our universal human yearning for justice, for wrongs to be righted, and for the innocent to be vindicated. When we hear that shift in tone, that winning clarity, it confirms our hopes and beliefs. It provides an emotional release, validating the struggle that preceded it and reinforcing the idea that perseverance and integrity can indeed prevail. For Oswald, this would be the sound of his spirit renewed, his character affirmed not by others, but by the undeniable evidence in his steadfast demeanor. It would be the audible manifestation of his freedom and restored dignity. In your own life, when you achieve a significant goal, overcome a difficult obstacle, or finally articulate a deeply held conviction, allow your voice to reflect that moment of truth and triumph. Let it carry the weight of your journey, the relief of resolution, and the quiet strength of conviction. It's an authentic expression that connects deeply with others. And so, as chapter 16 draws to a close, Oswald Langdon stands, not merely acquitted, but profoundly transformed. His trial was not just a little battle. It was a profound test of his character, a proving ground where his integrity shone brightest under immense pressure. He learned, as we all must, that true authority comes from conviction, that persuasion thrives on vivid clarity, and that the triumph of truth, when it finally emerges, is a sound as resonant and powerful as any anthem. These lessons will undoubtedly serve him well as he ventures forward, shaping his path in ways we are yet to discover, leading us compellingly to our next chapter. Chapter 17, A Desperate Plea. Welcome, dear listeners, to a deeper exploration of Oswald Langdon, as we turn our attention to the intense and pivotal chapter 17, aptly titled A Desperate Plea. This chapter plunges us into a gripping narrative centered on a core concept that defines much of Oswald's journey. The moment an ally finds themselves in grave danger, thereby forcing Oswald to risk his newfound stability, whatever fragile peace he may have just achieved, to come to their aid. Imagine Oswald, perhaps having just settled into a semblance of normalcy, finally catching his breath after myriad trials. He might have secured a safe haven for the new connections, or even started to rebuild the shattered world. But then, the lifeline snaps. A desperate plea arrives, shattering this momentary calm. This isn't just about helping a friend. It's about making a profound sacrifice, throwing himself back into the volatile fray, all for the sake of someone he cares deeply about. It's a classic test of character, isn't it? Does he prioritize his hard-won safety, or does his loyalty compel him to once again face uncertainty and peril? It is in these crucible moments that true heroism is often forged, revealing the depth of our protagonist's courage and commitment. To truly convey this tension and immerse our listeners in Oswald's predicament, we focused on several key storytelling elements. First, and perhaps most crucially, we aim to inject urgency and anxiety directly into the narration itself. How do we achieve this? Without explicitly stating Oswald was anxious. We do it through the very rhythm and texture of the words. Consider the way a skilled filmmaker might use a sudden shift in musical score or a rapid-fire series of quick cuts to build suspense. In storytelling, this translates to shorter sentences, perhaps a more staccato delivery from our narrator, words chosen for their immediate impact rather than their poetic flourish. A real-world example might be the opening scene of a spy thriller, where the narrator describes a ticking clock, a dimly lit street, or the rapid thudding of footsteps, rather than leisurely painting a pastoral scene. Psychologically, this matters immensely because urgency is contagious. When the narration feels urgent, the listener's own heart rate subtly picks up, their focus sharpens, and they become emotionally invested in the unfolding crisis. Our brains are wired to react to perceived threats, and the narratively urgent pace taps directly into that primal instinct, radiating a visceral sense of dread and anticipation. For you, the aspiring storyteller, or even just in everyday communication, practical application involves choosing adverbs, employing vivid sensory details that hint at danger, and varying your sentence length to create a sense of breathlessness or escalating tension. Think about how you would describe someone rushing against time. Would your language be slow and meandering, or sharp and to the point? Secondly, the pacing of the dialogue itself had to be quick, almost frantic, to effectively showcase the panic of the characters involved. Picture a scene where characters are discovering a terrible truth or scrambling for an escape. Their words wouldn't be carefully articulated, profound declarations, would they? Instead, they'd be short, overlapping, perhaps incomplete phrases, punctuated by gasps or sharp intakes of breaths. What was that? Did you see? Malta and Brown. This isn't just naturalistic. It's a powerful tool. A fantastic example is any high-stakes rescue scene in an action film where characters bark commands and questions at each other without waiting for full answers. Their communication raw and essential psychologically. Rapid-fire dialogue mirrors the disarray of a mind under extreme stress. When we panic, our higher cognitive functions are often overwhelmed, and our speech becomes fragmented, instinctual, and focused purely on immediate needs or reactions. This authenticity draws the listener deeper into the emotional landscape of the scene, making the characters feel palpable and the situation more believable. How can one apply this? When writing dialogue for stressful situations, strip away unnecessary words, allow for interruptions, use exclamations, and let the characters feel that hit the brevity and sharpness of their lines. The goal is to make it sound like genuine panic, not a theatrical performance. Finally, after the storm of panic and urgency, it was absolutely vital to conclude this chapter with Oswald's steadfast commitment to his friends. This isn't merely a plot point. It's a defining moment for our protagonist. He must make a choice, and that choice solidifies who he is. Consider the powerful scene in countless epic tales where the hero, despite overwhelming odds and personal sacrifice, declares, "I will not abandon them, or whatever the cost. I am with them." It's a moment of heroic resolve that resonates deeply, psychologically. This provides a critical emotional resolution after the preceding anxiety. It affirms the hero's core values, demonstrates their growth, and reinforces their intrinsic goodness, even in the face of profound adversity. Humans are drawn to loyalty and altruism. Witnessing a character make a difficult, selfless choice despite personal cost is inherently inspiring and fosters a stronger, more lasting connection between the audience and the character. It provides a glimmer of hope and purpose after the fear. For practical application, this ending often comes after a moment of intense decision-making. So, don't just tell. Instead of saying Oswald was committed, demonstrate it through his determined gaze, the firmness in his voice, or a single, unwavering action, like gathering his tools or setting off into the night. It's about letting the character's actions and words speak volumes about their unwavering moral compass. In summary, Chapter 17, A Desperate Plea, is designed to be a crucible for Oswald, testing his loyalty and resolve. By meticulously crafting the narration with urgency, pacing the dialogue to reflect tenet, and culminating in Oswald's unbreakable commitment, we aim to deliver an immersive and emotionally resonant experience. This careful layering ensures that when Oswald embarks on his perilous journey in the chapters to come, our listeners are not just observing, but truly feeling every step alongside him. Are you ready to witness the strength of his bonds? Chapter 18, The Turning Point. Welcome back, dear listener, to the unfolding saga of Oswald Langdon. In our 18th chapter, aptly titled The Turning Point, we witness the culmination of Oswald's trials and tribulations, as he finally, meticulously, and with unwavering resolve, devises a master plan to return home and confront his enemies. This isn't merely an impulsive decision born of desperation. It is the calculated strategy of a man forged in adversity, refined by hardship, and now ready to reclaim his destiny. For too long, Oswald has endured exile, observed from the shadows, and gathered the fragmented pieces of a complex puzzle that has dominated his very existence. Now, those pieces are falling into place with astonishing clarity, revealing a definitive path forward. A bold and intricate maneuver designed to reclaim what was unjustly taken from him and his lineage. This is more than a plan. It's a declaration. As we delve into this pivotal moment, I want you to imagine the scene, allowing the very tone of my voice to guide your perception of Oswald's unwavering resolve. We must read with a tone of calculated determination. Think of it as listening to a seasoned commander outlining a perilous but absolutely necessary campaign, one where the stakes are impossibly high, yet his voice remains steady, effused with an almost tangible certainty. There's no room for hesitation, no hint of doubt or wavering resolve in his cadence. For example, recall any grand historical epic where a leader, having endured countless setbacks and personal losses, finally stands before their trusted few, not to lament their misfortunes, but to articulate with crystal clarity the intricate, painstaking steps that will lead them, against all odds, to ultimate victory. Picture a General MacArthur declaring, "I shall return," but with the added layers of every strategic detail already forming in his mind. His voice steady, his eyes alight with a formidable and unshakable purpose psychologically. This tone is paramount because it instantly conveys absolute conviction to the listener. It assures us, the audience, that Oswald has not only thought this through with meticulous care but has committed every fiber of his being, every ounce of his courage, to its unflinching execution. It builds an undeniable sense of trust and authority, making us believe implicitly in his capability, even in the face of the most daunting and seemingly insurmountable odds. To truly feel this, imagine Oswald's internal stillness amidst the external storm, his mind a fortress of strategic brilliance, his resolve an unyielding steel. His words are measured, each phrase carrying the immense weight of his bitter experience and his unshakable commitment. Beyond the tone, we must emphasize the strategic details of the plan. This isn't a vague aspiration or wishful thought. It's a comprehensive, actionable blueprint for decisive action. What good is a plan without its specific components, without the careful and exhaustive consideration of every potential contingency and every variable? Think of the legendary tale of the Trojan horse. a masterstroke of dissection where every seemingly innocuous detail, from the colossal size of the gift to the precise timing of its presentation and the hidden compartments for the warriors, was meticulously planned to infiltrate an otherwise impregnable city. Oswald's strategy is similarly layered, complex, and brilliant in its conception. It involves not just a singular, head-on attack, but a symphony of coordinated efforts, covert alliances forged during his prolonged absence, intelligence meticulously gathered on his adversary's known weaknesses and predictable behaviors, pre-arranged signals to trigger simultaneous movements, specific routes of infiltration that exploit forgotten passages or lax patrols, and even elements of psychotic warfare subtly designed to sow discord and suspicion among his unsuspecting foes, turning them against each other before he even makes his grand entrance. Psychologically, highlighting these intricate details is crucial because it transforms a fantastical, almost impossible notion into a tangible, believable, and ultimately achievable undertaking. It brilliantly showcases Oswald's intelligence, his incredible capacity for foresight, and his evolving mastery of his environment and his enemies. We aren't just told he possesses a plan. We're actively invited to appreciate the sheer genius woven within its very fabric, understanding the intricate gears turning within his brilliant mind, anticipating each calculated move. As a listener, let your imagination trace the lines of his mental map, visualize the faces of his new, unexpected allies, and anticipate the precise timing of each critical move he orchestrates. And finally, dear friends, we must build excitement for the upcoming return journey. This is not just another chapter. It's a prelude to an epic homecoming, a reckoning long awaited by Oswald and by us. Can you feel the stirring of anticipation, the palpable thrill of the approaching storm, the promise of inevitable confrontation? Think of that climatic moment in any grand adventure, perhaps when the exiled hero finally gathers his forces, all the lost heir triumphantly sets foot back on the sacred shores of their rightful kingdom, ready to challenge the vile usurper and reclaim their legacy. The very air hums with electricity, doesn't it? Every prior struggle, every painful lesson learned, every moment of despair endured, now coalesces into this singular, monumental push forward, this ultimate test psychologically. This excitement is our reward for accompanying Oswald through his numerous trials and tribulations. It taps into our deep-seated human desire for justice, for the hero to ultimately triumph against all odds, and for narrative arcs to find their powerful, satisfying resolution. His profound promise of catharsis, of watching a long-simmering conflict ignite into a glorious, decisive confrontation that will change everything. Prepare yourselves, for the journey back is not merely a physical relocation. It is a symbolic crossing of the Rubicon, a defiant declaration that Oswald Langdon has returned, not as a broken victim, but as an indomitable force to be reckoned with, prepared to reshape his world. So, as this pivotal chapter concludes, we leave Oswald on the precipice, his master plan meticulously laid out, his resolve archetype, and the echoes of his impending return already vibrating across the lands, stirring the very foundations of power. The stage is set, the pieces are in motion, and a new dawn, or perhaps a fierce, cleansing storm awaits. What thrilling dangers will he face, and what surprising allies will emerge from the shadows to join his cause? Join us next time as we witness the dramatic execution of the turning point. Chapter 19, Return to the Homeland. The chapter Return to the Homeland marks a pivotal moment in Oswald Langdon's journey, doesn't it? It isn't merely a geographical shift. It represents the emotional and stealthy arrival back in England, where the final, desperate act of his story truly begins. This return is steeped in a complex blend of longing and trepidation, setting a deeply personal stage for the epic conflict that awaits. Oswald is home, yet it is a home transformed, a landscape mirroring his own fractured soul. One of the most compelling aspects of this chapter is the narrative's deliberate choice to use an nostalgic but deeply cautious tone. Think of it like this. Imagine returning to your childhood home after many years, only to find it under siege. Every beloved corner now a potential hiding spot for an enemy. You recall the warmth, perhaps the scent of your mother's cooking, or the feel of the old wooden banister under your hand, wouldn't you? But every sensory memory would be overshadowed by the immediate, chilling reality of danger. Psychologically, this approach matters immensely because nostalgia connects us to a character's humanity, making the plight relatable. It highlights what is truly at stake, not just a mission, but a personal history, a sense of belonging that has been violated. For us, as listeners, we can apply this by reflecting on how our own cherished memories might become bittersweet if the places associated with them were irrevocably altered by conflict or loss. What emotional layers would that add to your experience? Secondly, the script masterfully describes the familiar but changed settings with a profound sense of melancholy. Consider the quiet English countryside, once a symbol of peace and resilience, now depicted with a subtle, pervasive sadness. Perhaps the quaint village of what also once shared carefree moments, now stands shattered and silent, its windows boarded, echoing the joy that has fled. Or that ancient stone wall, previously a comforting boundary, now perhaps bearing the fresh scars of conflict. This isn't just scene setting, it's emotional landscape painting. Psychologically, this is still seen as a powerful sense of loss, even for places we've never seen. It demonstrates how external events can desecrate internal sanctuaries, making Oswald's fight not just for victory, but for the very soul of his homeland. To truly grasp this, I encourage you to visualize a place you hold dear now. Imagine it subtly, yet fundamentally, altered by a pervasive threat. How does that shift your perception of its beauty, its character? Finally, the narrative brilliantly increases tension as Oswald moves through what has become enemy territory, even on his own soil. Every shadow becomes a potential threat, every distant sound a possible harbinger of discovery. The familiar rustle of leaves or the creak of an old gate no longer offer benign comfort but are instead amplified into signals of impending danger. He is a hunted, navigating a landscape that should be sanctuary but is instead a sprawling, dangerous maze. This constant undercurrent of threat is psychologically vital. It keeps us on the edge of our seats, our own senses sharpened by prophecy, anticipating every potential reveal or confrontation. It transforms the mundane into the menacing, illustrating how deeply pervasive the enemy's influence has become. When you next take a walk in a familiar neighborhood, try to imagine yourself as Oswald, viewing every corner, every person, every sound with a heightened sense of vigilance. How does that simple exercise amplify your awareness of your surroundings? This chapter, then, isn't just about a return. It's about a reawakening, a painful confrontation with a cherished past now entangled with a dangerous present. It weaves together the ache of memory, the shock of alteration, and the omnipresent threat, setting a deeply personal and incredibly tense stage for Oswald's ultimate confrontation. We are drawn into his dilemma, feeling the weight of his past and the urgency of his present, as he prepares to make his final stand. Now, let's explore the immediate challenges he faces upon setting foot on English soil once more. Chapter 20, Confronting the Shadows. Welcome, esteemed listener, to Chapter 20 of Oswald Langdon, aptly titled Confronting the Shadows. After navigating intricate webs of deceit, enduring personal trials, and meticulously gathering the pieces of a terrifying puzzle, Oswald has finally reached a pivotal moment. The era of observation and planning has concluded. Now, we embark upon the exhilarating phase of decisive action, as Oswald begins dismantling the antagonist, exploring an insidious power network systematically. What exactly does it mean to systematically dismantle such a formidable structure? It signifies far more than simply striking out in anger or making impulsive moves. It implies a strategic, methodical, almost surgical approach, targeting the very foundations upon which the shadowy empire rests. Think of it as a master chess player, having carefully analyzed every possible permutation, now executing a series of precise, undeniable moves that lead to an inevitable checkmate. Oswald isn't just cutting off a few branches, he's going for the roots, understanding that true justice requires a complete and irreversible unraveling of the antagonist's influence, whether it extends into the highest echelons of government, the darkest corners of the underworld, or the subtle manipulations within societal institutions. This is about precision, foresight, and an unwavering commitment to seeing the mission through to its ultimate conclusion, ensuring that when the dust settles, the antagonist's power is not merely challenged, but utterly eradicated. Let us delve into that key points that define this thrilling chapter, beginning with the crucial aspect of maintaining a confident, driving pace. To maintain a confident, driving pace in our narrative is to imbue Oswald's actions with an undeniable sense of momentum and purpose. Imagine the steady, ready beat of a powerful engine, building speed with each revolution, propelling the story forward with an unstoppable force. Why is this pace so vital here? Because it mirrors Oswald's internal state. He is no longer hesitant, no longer merely reactive. He is a force unleashed, operating with the certainty that comes from knowing he holds all the necessary cards, that his strategy is sound, and that every move he makes is a step closer to victory. This isn't a frantic rush, rather, it's a controlled acceleration, a palpable sense of inevitability that draws the listener deeper into the unfolding drama. Consider, for instance, a classic spy thriller where the protagonist, having gathered crucial intelligence, initiates a series of coordinated strikes. Each successful operation, each piece of evidence secured, each rogue agent neutralized, contributes to an escalating sense of urgency and triumph. The narrative doesn't linger. It propels itself from one significant event to the next, much like a domino effect gaining unstoppable momentum. Think of Jason Bourne, relentlessly pursuing the truth, each confrontation revealing another layer of the conspiracy, driving him ever onward with a determined, almost primal energy. The storytelling itself reflects this relentless pursuit, with sentences that are clear, direct, and impactful, carrying the weight of Oswald's conviction. Psychologically, this driving pace matters immensely because it instills confidence not only in the character but also in the listener. We, as observers, feel that same sort of empowerment. It reassures us that the hero is in control, that the tide has unequivocally turned. It replaces anxiety with anticipation, transforming what might have been a protracted struggle into a decisive campaign. This sense of momentum satisfies our innate desire for progress and resolution, giving us a powerful emotional investment in Oswald's escalating success. It's a feeling of watching the perfectly executed plan unfold, where every step is deliberate and contributes to the larger, ultimate objective. This rhythm communicates competence and certainty, removing any lingering doubts about Oswald's capacity to overcome. For practical application, how might we, the listeners, translate this concept into our own lives or endeavors? When confronting our own shadows, be they personal challenges, professional obstacles, or complex projects, we can adopt a similar mindset. Instead of being overwhelmed by the enormity of the task, We can break it down into manageable, impactful steps. By executing each step with confidence and precision, maintaining a steady, deliberate pace, we build our own momentum. We create a positive feedback loop where each small victory fuels the energy for the next, propelling us forward. It's about cultivating a mindset of proactive determination, where every action is a conscious choice, moving us purposefully towards our desired outcome, just as Oswald systematically dismantles his adversary's empire. Moving on to our second key point, highlighting the satisfying execution of Oswald's plans. There is a profound, almost visceral satisfaction that comes from witnessing a meticulously crafted plan come to fruition, especially when that plan is designed to bring down a long-standing evil. Why is this particular element so crucial in chapter 20? Because the listener has been with Oswald through his trials, witnessed his resilience, and empathized with his struggles. The satisfaction here isn't just about plot progression. It's about catharsis. It's a payoff for all the suspense, the tension, the moments of doubt and despair. Each successful maneuver, each significant blow dealt to the antagonist's network, serves as a triumphant vindication of Oswald's unwavering resolve. We don't just see the plan unfold. We feel the deep resonance of justice being served, piece by glorious piece. Imagine a highly elaborate heist movie, like Ocean's 11, where every single intricate detail, every coded message, every perfectly timed distraction culminates in the vault being breached and the objective achieved. The sheer ingenuity and flawless coordination of the team evoke a deep sense of satisfaction in the viewer. Or perhaps, consider a courtroom drama where, after endless hours of investigation and lethal maneuvering, the prosecutor finally presents their irrefutable piece of evidence that shatters the defense, bringing a corrupt individual to justice. Detached from the devilry, the look of defeat of the villain's face, these are moments of pure, unadulterated satisfaction, born from the skillful execution of a well-conceived strategy. Oswald's dismantling efforts provide precisely these kinds of gratifying payoffs, revealing his meticulous preparation and strategic brilliance. Psychologically, this element is incredibly powerful because it taps into our fundamental desire for order and fairness. We crave resolution, especially when confronted with injustice. When we see Oswald's plans executed flawlessly, it reinforces our belief that dedication, intelligence, and perseverance can indeed overcome overwhelming odds. This provides a deep emotional reward, a sense of rightness in the world, even within the confines of a fictional narrative. It's not just about what happens to the villain, but about the validation of the hero's journey and the enduring power of ethical action. The emotional release from witnessing these victories is a powerful motivator for continued engagement, making us eager to see what comes next, because we know Oswald is delivering results. So, how can we apply this in our daily lives? Recognizing and celebrating the satisfying execution of our own plans, big or small, is incredibly important. Did you meticulously plan a challenging presentation and it went off without a hitch? Did you strategically manage your finances to achieve a long-term goal? Acknowledge those moments. Take time to appreciate the effort, the foresight, and the skillful execution that led to a positive outcome. It's about savoring the fruits of your labor, understanding that meticulous planning and confident execution lead to deeply rewarding experiences, reinforcing a positive cycle of achievement and satisfaction. It teaches us the value of process and the joy of seeing our efforts translate into tangible, positive results. Finally, we arrive at our third crucial point, keeping the listener engaged with the unfolding justice. Engagement, in this context, is about more than just maintaining interest. It's about fostering a profound emotional and intellectual connection to the narrative as the scales of justice slowly but surely tip in Oswald's favor. It's not a sudden, singular event, but a gradual, compelling revelation of consequence. Why is this continuous engagement so vital during such a critical chapter? Because true justice, in its most resonant form, often unfolds rather than explodes. It's a process of revelation, of consequences rippling outwards, affecting not only the antagonist but also the wider world touched by their influence. We're not merely observing. We're experiencing the slow, deliberate turning of the tide. Consider a television series like The Wire, where the intricate web of corruption and crime is gradually exposed, season by season, character by character. The audience remains utterly gripped not just by the dramatic events, but by the profound sense of understanding that develops as the various layers of the system are peeled back. We see the consequences of actions, the systemic failures, and the incremental victories against seemingly insurmountable odds. Or think of our long-form investigative journalism piece, where each new piece of evidence, each interview, each connection made, deepens our understanding and reinforces the inevitable conclusion. The unfolding justice in Oswald's story works similarly, showing the antagonist's power base erode not in one grand gesture, but through a series of calculated, impactful actions that slowly tighten the net psychologically. This sustained engagement is paramount because it appeals to our innate sense of morality and our desire for narratives that reflect a meaningful struggle. When justice unfolds incrementally, it allows us to process the implications, to truly grasp the weight of their antagonist's transgressions and the significance of Oswald's triumph. It gives us time to root for the underdog, to appreciate the subtlety of strategy, and to feel a deeper emotional connection to the eventual outcome. This gradual reveal builds a profound sense of anticipation and investment, making the ultimate downfall of the villain all the more impactful. It validates our hope that even in the face of overwhelming evil, a persistent, righteous force can ultimately prevail. It satisfies our needs for a story where actions have clear, discernible consequences. Practically speaking, how can we leverage this idea of unfolding justice in our own endeavors or our approach to problems? It encourages patience and persistence. It reminds us that complex issues rarely have instantaneous solutions. Instead of expecting immediate results, we can learn to appreciate the process, the small victories, and the gradual accumulation of positive change. When tackling a long-term goal or addressing a deep-seated issue, acknowledge that progress often comes in stages. Celebrate each milestone. Understand that your sustained effort is slowly but surely shifting the dynamics, bringing you closer to your desired outcome, just as Oswald systematically chips away at his adversary's dominance. This perspective fosters resilience and helps us maintain motivation through what might otherwise seem like an overwhelming journey. In essence, Chapter 20, Confronting the Shadows, is a masterclass in strategic execution, delivering a potent blend of confident action, gratifying payoffs, and sustained emotional engagement. Oswald's methodical dismantling of his adversary's power network is not just a series of plot points. It's a meticulously crafted symphony of justice, each note played with precision and purpose. We witness a shift from reactive defense to proactive offense, a testament to his intelligence and unwavering determination. As we conclude this profound dive into Chapter 20, we are left with a powerful sense of momentum and an eager anticipation for what comes next. Oswald has laid the groundwork, initiated the cascade, and now the antagonist truly feels the ground shaking beneath their feet. What will be the antagonist's desperate countermove? How will Oswald navigate the inevitable escalation? These are the questions that will drive us into the thrilling chapters ahead, where the shadows, now confronted, must inevitably retreat amid a final, desperate stand. The stage is set for an epic conclusion, and we, the listeners, are wholly invested in every thrilling step of the journey. Chapter 21: The Duel of Fates. Chapter 21: The Duel of Fates. The very title evokes a sense of epic confrontation, doesn't it? This isn't just any skirmish. It is the inevitable, direct, and deeply personal collision between Oswald Langdon and his primary rival, a moment meticulously crafted and anticipated throughout the preceding narrative. This chapter serves as a narrative crucible, the defining moment where all the accumulated tension, the simmering resentment, the clash of ideologies, and the deeply personal stakes finally erupt. It's where the journey of our protagonist, Oswald, reaches its most critical juncture, forcing him to face not just an external enemy, but potentially the very limits of his own resolve and conviction. This isn't merely a physical struggle. It's a battle for principles, for survival, and for the very soul of the story, with consequences that will irrevocably alter the path forward for everyone involved. How do we ensure that this monumental chapter, this true test of character, resonates with the listener as powerfully as it deserves? Firstly, we must emphasize reading with high intensity and sharp imagination. Think about the iconic tropes in storytelling that truly stick with you. Consider the sheer vocal power and precision delivered during the climactic lightsaber duel between Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader in The Empire Strikes Back, where every decoration, every paint cast, and every major word from James Earl Jones reverberated with chilling authority. Or perhaps the intellectual and emotional ferocities in the verbal jousting between Sherlock Holmes and Professor Moriarty. In these moments, every single line, every controlled breath, and even every strategic pose is imbued with profound significance. These lines are delivered with such precise articulation that the listener is utterly captivated, hanging on every syllable as if their own destiny hung in the balance. Why does this level of intensity and clarity matter so profoundly, psychologically? High intensity conveys the profound gravity of the situation. It signals to the listener, on a primal level, that this is not a casual exchange, but a life-or-death confrontation. Sharp enunciation, on the other hand, ensures that amidst the heightened emotion and rapid exchanges, no crucial word, no veiled threat, and no pivotal revelation is ever lost in the auditory shuffle. It keeps the listener firmly anchored within the high-stakes environment, their own tension mirroring that of the characters, making them lean in, utterly unwilling to miss even the slightest nuance. This meticulous delivery amplifies the emotional resonance and reinforces the perceived importance of every uttered phrase, making the conflict feel immediate and visceral. So practically, when you approach such a scene, truly inhabit the character's heightened states. Imagine the adrenaline coursing through their veins. Remember, their words are not mere communication. They are weapons, shields, or desperate pleas. Infuse your voice with that same underlying urgency. Articulate each word distinctly, especially the names of characters, key locations, or phrases that carry significant weight. Vary your vocal tap, sometimes a sharp, cutting whisper, sometimes a direct, powerful retort, always delivered with deliberate purpose. Prodded the love, underlying emotion, whether it's seething anger, unyielding defiance, paralyzing fear, or unwavering determination through the crispness and clarity of your delivery, allowing it to resonate powerfully and unforgettable within the listener's mind. Secondly, the pacing of the dialogue must meticulously match the ebb and flow of a physical or verbal duel. Have you ever noticed the dynamic rhythm in a meticulously choreographed fencing match in the classic swashbuckling adventure, or the rapid-fire cross-examinations in intense courtroom drama? There's a distinct back and forth, sometimes a flurry of quick thrusts and parries, sometimes a momentary, agonized impulse as the combatant makes their next move, followed by a swift, decisive strike. It isn't merely about the speed of delivery, but the strategic timing of each line. What's the psychological impact of such deliberate pacing? This dynamic ebb and flow of pacing inherently mimics the natural rhythm of conflict. A rapid, almost breathless exchange instantly heightens the sense of urgency and immediate danger, reflecting the character's quick thinking, their instinctive reactions, and then escalating stakes. Conversely, a deliberate, slow, or measured delivery can powerfully sacrifice a character who is carefully weighing their words, calculating a devastating counter blow, or perhaps attempting to intimidate the opponent with their sheer composure. This fluid, dynamic pacing effectively keeps the listener perpetually on edge, their own emotional state mirroring the character's fluctuating states of mind and the unpredictable, volatile nature of the conflict. It creates a truly visceral, immersive experience where the listener feels every thrust and parry alongside Oswald and his rival. To apply this practically, deeply observe the give and take inherent in the script. When a character delivers a profound challenge or a significant accusation, allow that statement to hang in the air for a deliberate beat, letting its weight settle. When a retort comes swiftly, match that quickness in your own delivery, creating a sense of immediate reaction. Crucially, use pauses not as unintentional breaks, but as strategic, meaningful moments that character might be absorbing a sudden blow, formulating a brilliant counter-argument, or delivering a silent, devastating look that speaks volumes. Think of the entire scene like a carefully choreographed dance. Each line is a specific movement, and the pauses are the vital transitions, all contributing to a larger, evolving, and ultimately thrilling dance of conflict. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, we must deliver the climax of this duel with maximum emotional weight. Can you recall the moment in Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back where Darth Vader makes his shocking revelation to Luke, "I am your father," or the heroine, desperate final struggle between Frodo and Gollum at the fiery precipice of Mount Doom in The Lord of the Rings? These pivotal moments are not just spoken words. They are felt deep within the listener's soul. Every preceding event, every struggle Oswald has endured, every sacrifice made, every ounce of tension meticulously built, all converge and lead to the singularity of emotional impact. Why is this critical psychologically? The climax represents the ultimate emotional payoff for the entire narrative arc leading up to this point. It's where all the carefully built-up tension either explodes in a cathartic release or resolves into a profound new state. Delivering this moment with the absolute maximum emotional weight ensures that the listener experiences the full force of the catharsis, the shock, the profound sadness, or the ultimate triumph right alongside the characters. The speed, emotional delivery cements the scene's unparalleled importance in their memory and unmistakably defines the turning point of the entire narrative. Without this emotionally resonant peak, all the preceding build-up would feel hollow, incomplete, and any subsequent resolution would lack its true significance. It's about leaving an indelible, unforgettable mark on the listener's heart and mind. So, for the emotional beat, identify with absolute clarity the character's core motivation in that precise moment and the ultimate stakes hanging in the balance. What are they truly fighting for? What immense loss do they face? What profound truths are they confronting? All that raw, unfiltered emotion, be it overwhelming triumph, crushing despair, profound loss, or an unshakable, fierce determination to fully color and saturate your voice. Do not, under any circumstances, hold back. Let your voice break with anguish if the characters would. Let it tremble with unbridled fury, or resonate with an absolute, unwavering resolve. This is the singular moment to fully inhabit the character, to breathe their final, most impactful declaration, transforming it into a truly unforgettable auditory experience for every single listener. In summary, for Chapter 21, The Duel of Fates, your voice becomes the weapon, the shield, and the heart of the conflict. By embracing high intensity and sharp enunciation, by masterfully pacing the dialogue to mirror the strategic give and take of a duel, and by pouring maximum emotional weight into the climax, you will not only narrate the story but truly make the listener feel the pivotal moment Oswald confronts his destiny. And as that last impactful word echoes, it will seamlessly pave the way for the profound consequences and transformations awaiting us in the subsequent chapters. Chapter 22, Justice Served. Welcome back, dear listener, to the continuing saga of Oswald Langdon. We've journeyed through intrigue, witnessed profound betrayals, and stood alongside Oswald as he confronted the very forces that sought to unravel his life and reputation. Now, in Chapter 22, titled Justice Serves, we arrive at a pivotal moment, a turning point where the lingering shadows begin to recede, and the truth, so long obscured, finally casts its brilliant light. This chapter is not just about an aftermath of a dramatic confrontation. It's about the very public and definitive clearing of Oswald's name, a crucial act that allows him, and indeed us, to breathe a collective sigh of relief. What does it truly mean for justice to be served after such a profound period of injustice and misunderstanding? It's more than merely an outcome. It's an emotional and psychological shift, a complete recalibration of the narrative that has defined our protagonist for so long. The dust settles, the whispers dissipate, and in their place emerges a clear, unwavering affirmation of Oswald's integrity. It's a culmination of his arduous journey, a testament to his resilience, and a powerful statement that truth, however slowly, will always find its way to the surface. One of the most immediate and impactful shifts you'll notice in this chapter is a deliberate change in our narrative tone. We transition from the edge of receipt tension, the urgency of discovery, and the anxiety of potential failure, to a tone that is decidedly more relieved, yet imbued with a quiet, authoritative certainty. Think of it like this. Have you ever been utterly engrossed in a courtroom drama where the fate of an innocent person hangs precariously in the balance? The arguments are fierce, the witnesses contradictory, and every moment is charged with suspense. But then, the jury returns, the verdict is read, and in that instant, a profound release sweeps through the room. The initial shock gives way to a wave of relief, and the judge's final pronouncements carry an undeniable weight of resolution. That sense of finality, of incontrovertible truth, is what we aim to convey here, psychologically. This shift in tone is critical for several reasons. It provides a much-needed catharsis for you, the listener, mirroring the emotional release that Oswald himself experiences. After investing so much emotion and anticipation into his struggles, the mind craves this moment of definitive peace. An authoritative tone, moreover, doesn't just state that justice has been served. It commands that reality. It reassures us that order has been restored, that the moral universe of the story has righted itself, fulfilling a fundamental human need for fairness and stability. It allows us to process the resolution, not merely as a plot point, but as an earned truth. So, how can we apply this in our own lives? When we navigate our own personal battles and finally achieve a hard-won victory or clarity, the way we carry ourselves afterwards speaks volumes. It's not about gloating, but about standing firm in your truth, allowing your posture, your words, and your actions to reflect the calm, confident authority of someone who has weathered a storm and emerged intact, owning that vindication with a quiet, unwavering strength. This newfound calm also allows us to emphasize the profound restoration of order and honor that unfolds around Oswald. His name, once dragged through the mire of suspicion and slander, is now meticulously scrubbed clean. His reputation, fragmented by false accusations, is painstakingly reassembled, piece by honorable piece. Imagine the end of a long, devastating war. The battles have ceased, the treaties are signed, and the flags, once torn and tattered, are now raised high and proud, signifying the return to sovereignty and peace. Or consider the triumphant return of a rightful heir to a usurped throne, where the balance of power is righted, and the natural order of things is restored. It's not just about what is outwardly seen, but the deep, systemic correction of wrongs. From a psychological perspective, this emphasis on restoration is deeply resonant. Our innate sense of justice yearns for the good to triumph and for integrity to be recognized. When a character's honor is redeemed, it taps into our own desires for vindication when we feel misunderstood or unjustly treated. It reaffirms our belief that moral principles ultimately prevail, offering a sense of hope and reassurance. It tells us that the world, despite its complexities and occasional darkness, can and often does course-correct towards fairness. In our personal journeys, how do we rebuild and restore after chaos or misunderstanding? It begins with clear, honest communication, setting firm boundaries, and then, most importantly, consistently demonstrating through our actions that our integrity is unwavering. It's about rebuilding trust and faith, not just in others, but in the belief that acting honorably, especially when it's difficult, always leads to a truer, more stable foundation. Crucially, as this chapter unfolds, do notice a natural and deliberate slowing of the narrative pace. The frantic energy that propels us through the climax dissipates, giving way to a more measured, reflective cadence. Have you ever experienced a sudden, exhilarating rush of adrenaline, perhaps after narrowly avoiding an accident or achieving a momentous goal? In the immediate aftermath, there's a moment of profound quietude, where your breath catches, and the world seems to almost slow down. You take those first deep, calming breaths, surveying the scene, allowing the reality of what just happened to truly sink in. Throughout, urgent music softens, perhaps giving way to a more melancholic or triumphant score. Dialogue becomes less about action and more about contemplation, the significance of the moment. Psychologically, this gentle deceleration is indispensable. It prevents emotional whiplash, allowing you, the listener, ample space and time to fully process the dramatic events that have just transpired. It's a vital period of decompression, enabling the full weight of relief, resolution, and redemption to settle. Rushing past this moment will diminish the impact, robbing both Oswald and us of the opportunity for true absorption and reflection. It's in these quieter moments that the deeper themes of justice, perseverance, and the enduring power of truth truly resonate, without being overshadowed by the immediate thrill of conflict. And how might this apply to our own lives? After a period of intense challenge, a significant achievement, or even a deep personal loss, do we immediately plunge into the next task, or do we grant ourselves the precious gift of pause? Allowing for this mindful transition, this deliberate slowing down, is not a luxury. It's a necessity for emotional and mental well-being, for consolidating the lessons learned, and for truly appreciating the calm that invariably follows the storm. It's about being present in the aftermath, rather than rushing through it. So, as we conclude this introduction to Chapter 22, Justice Served, we find Oswald Langdon not just acquitted, but truly redeemed. The public declaration of his innocence is more than a legal formality. It's a profound restoration of his identity, allowing him to step forward into a future unburdened by past accusations. This chapter represents the quiet strength that emerges when truth prevails, when honor is reclaimed, and when the chaotic storm finally gives way to a clear, calm sky. It paves the way for a new beginning, a path forward that is defined not by the struggles he endured, but by the integrity he steadfastly upheld. Join us as we explore the deeper implications of this pivotal turning point and witness Oswald's journey into a well-earned tranquility and a future filled with renewed purpose.
Thank you for listening to tonight's story on Stories of Crime. If you enjoyed this crime audiobook, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss another mystery, investigation, or chilling true crime tale. Leave a comment below and tell us what case you'd like to hear next. Until next time, stay curious, stay cautious, and remember, some stories never truly end.